only if it's on.
I turned it off trying to turn it on. So.
Okay, well, it's on.
Looks like it could use a little more volume.
Maybe, yeah, because that's a pretty low. It looked like you went the other way with that. All right, that's better. All right.
Da 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 da.
Okay.
Da-da-da.
Next will be.
Okay, here we are.
How close are we into the thing? Yeah, there.
Good
okay.
enough.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Hi, that's Lori. I'm Corey.
We are thankful for you guys always.
And we're also the Coles.
Yes. Yes, we are Lori and Corey.
Look careless. You should hand me that hat.
Hand a hat. I shall hand you a hat. So you don't look so
It'll
careless.
it'll keep me warm in this cold,
freezing cold
November,
California
days.
day. It might be almost.
It was 72 in the living room last I looked.
Yeah, it is. So it's not too cold by most people's standards.
Yeah, but by old people's standards, kind of cool.
Yep. Happy early Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
My son just gave me a call because they're having their annual Friendsgiving, which they have today. Today they're having, which has a bunch of friends over, and they all have Thanksgiving together, which is a great way to do it if you've got friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps.
We're told that friends are good for you.
Yeah, it would help if you guys lived around here.
We would invite you all over.
Right, we could have a giant Friendsgiving. So instead, we'll have this kind of Friendsgiving, which is.
Well, we know we have at least one fan, and that we met at the Costco one time. So.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, we would be having you over here.
Must got a quiet remote.
Tried
to get SDCC badges to meet up with my cousin, and unfortunately had to deal with work-related phone call during my 15 minutes. Oh no!
I timed out as a result. Okay.
Yeah, we did the BlizzCon a few times, and you basically had to be in there in the first 5 seconds if you wanted to get into BlizzCon.
Really? Yeah. So, well, good luck with the San Diego Comic-Con. Hope you can get in.
Yeah, the next one we're doing is MagFest, which is in Baltimore, Maryland. Actually, it's in National Harbor, Maryland, coming up in January. And I should know the bid dates.
Right, and you should have it. Yes, you should have it up there and be able to show it off.
I'm still thinking about other stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I know.
MagFest 2024. 2025.
Yeah, it will be 2025.
Super MagFest.
Yeah, you can probably. What an ugly color! I don't know if we want to show that color off. Boy, they have no taste. Yeah. Webcam, desktop.
That's a color.
Yeah.
It stands out. It's a good contrast, which is something games often lack. January 23rd through 26th. So Lori and I will be there.
Yes. We have made a decision, possibly because Brainiac said he would be there, and he said it was a must-go-to. So therefore, we are going to go.
So, and we're not planning on selling things. We may change our minds still, but we're mostly just going to be showing off.
Be show-off time.
Who are you and Dilly's Tale, and we'll probably have a few sneak previews of FAO, but it's not officially on the program.
Right. And we seem to be on a program with that.
If we enjoy Super, we should look into MagWest.
Oh, yeah. That would be more our style,
tell us about
too.
That.
Yeah. Well, we have volunteers to help us at Mag East, obviously. But we will have to check out MagWest, too.
MagWest. Maybe you've heard of MagFest, but you don't know what this is. Well, we certainly don't.
Yeah. There it is.
2025, sometime in the spring. So they haven't even set a date yet.
If they don't have their stuff together to get it going, that's crazy. They need to have that.
Have they done it in past years?
Oh, San Jose.
Okay.
They're behind the schedule.
San Jose is just down the bay from our son and his family and our grandsons. Oh, look, musicians.
Event info. Okay, so they have got the stuff. They just don't have the info up.
So yeah, here's the MagWest. It's magwest.org. Let's see, schedule.
They don't have one yet. They're still setting it
up.
Oh,
subject to change.
Yeah,
please plan ahead.
Yes.
Well, they have something of a schedule. They have quite a few things. Introduction to speed running, intro to modded Minecraft.
Cool. All right.
Oh, they got quite a bit, unless this is last year's schedule.
Probably is. But that's all right. We'll think about this. That was MagWest 2024.
So yeah, we haven't gone to. We used to go to science fiction fantasy conventions, like typically 3 of them in a year, and we would take a long weekend. We'd do a 3 or 4 day weekend to do those, and that's all the vacations we had when we were in our 20s and 30s. And now we've taken a couple longer vacations. We can start looking at the short ones.
We don't need to show that. Of course, we don't need to show us either, but that's beside the point there.
Yes, we do. Everybody's here for us.
Right. Uh-huh.
Well, we're here to say thanks. Let me put this on breakup.
Oh, thank you for the subscription.
Oh, thank you. JG Esquire. So these are our characters from the game Lori is currently writing, which is Summer Days of Feo's Adventure. That's a Feo on the left with his familiar Jafafa?
Jafafa, yeah.
Jafafa.
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte Ruse on the right.
Yep.
And the rest in between. So this stream is basically, because, it's around Thanksgiving time, and we traditionally say thank you to all the support people have given us for the last year or two, or 10, 12. Yeah. 12, oh my God, way back that far. Well, it has been 12 years since we did the Kickstarter for Hero U Road to Redemption. And have our lives changed in that time?
Considerably.
A little bit, yep.
Just a bit, yes. The last MagFest was in September. Okay, if it's in September, that's reasonable. They don't need to have everything nailed down yet. But we shall see. Sounds fun. The last convention I went to in San Jose was WesterCon. No, yeah, WesterCon in San Jose.
Possibly. We went to TimeCon there. That was TimeCon was actually part of our entree into Sierra because they were a Doctor Who convention that ran at a big loss in order to be able to bring in actors from England out to San Jose because the people running the convention were huge Doctor Who fans. And they asked Lori and me to be in charge of the role-playing game tournament. So we ran did we do D&D rules, sort of?
Sort of.
We sort of very loosely interpreted Dungeons & Dragons rules, but...
a time travel dungeon.
Yeah, it was a time travel dungeon. We had 2 groups in different rooms, and Lori game mastered one group. I did the other one. And it was all designed so that the 2 groups actually interacted with each other because there was a time travel theme, and characters didn't realize that at points in the course of this dungeon that they were actually going back in time and meeting up with themselves and with the other party. So we had a lot of fun with that, and we coordinated somehow or other, and then eventually. Did we eliminate players, or we
I don't remember really.
I don't remember exactly, but we got them all together at the end.
I just know that we had somebody playing the villain, and the villain just about wiped out everybody. Don't ever have a player character play the villain.
Yeah, much better for the dungeon master to play the villain because the DM is so distracted with other things that they won't play the villain optimally.
Right, you don't want the villain to win.
Yeah, if you put a player just in charge of the villain, they're going to...
You're going to have a pretty powerful villain if you get the right player.
I did something like that when I was first learning to play Dungeons & Dragons. I was working in Chicago, and my D&D friends from Chicago made a field trip up to... was it Milwaukee? Somewhere in Wisconsin, where they were holding Gen Con. I guess it was Milwaukee. And I got into a game that was basically solve the mystery that characters had been being murdered, and we were trying to solve that. And the game was set up so that party members were periodically murdered during the game. And we were trying to figure out who was murdering them and how the murderer was communicating with the dungeon master to do it. and I actually won the event. I figured it out. What was going on, and he basically was looking at how well players were playing their character and role playing and so on during the course of the run. So the players that were just kind of sitting back, not doing much, died off.
The guy killed.
They died
good.
first.
That's good.
So the more active players lasted longer, and I eventually figured out the signaling system and worked it out. So that was a lot of fun. Although you don't like to die in those games. I didn't, so I guess I was okay.
Yeah. Did you guys ever play voices in any Sierra games?
Yes, Lori was Queen Isabella.
Yep.
In was that King's Quest 6? I think.
One of them. And did you do a voice? You didn't do a voice. He did video capture.
Yeah, I did video capture for Quest for Glory 4. I was out of East.
Well, yeah, but weren't you in? Didn't they use your image for?
Well, they used my image in a Police Quest game where I was the police psychiatrist.
Yes. But yes, we both did body models for some of them when we were doing the phase of using.
Oh, you were. That's right. You were Shima in the belly dance sequence. I remember that.
No. 5, the one with Cedric. Oh no!
Cedric.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, because.
Ooh.
Yes, Richard actually did do this.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm Cedric.
Yeah, I was watching somebody do a voice.
Dr. Sidney Ames in Police Quest 3.
Uh-huh.
And I was also Smod, that's right, in the AGDI's KP3
right, that's
remake.
true. If you play that version, it's you can hear me a little. And I also did one pickup line for the Gypsy in Quest for Glory 4, which doesn't sound anything like the other Gypsy voice, which was kind of sad. I really wished I had, they would have played that so I could try and imitate it.
I am frequently mistaken for Salim in Quest for Glory 2. But that... Wait, 2, 4? Did we do anything for 2?
3.
One of the games. Salim. 3, of course. Quest for Glory 3. But that was actually John Wentworth, who was one of the programmers
the model for that
on the Mixed Up Fairy Tales and
the chief designer on Quest for Glory 3 is according to
it was actually Castle Dr. Brain he designed.
Ah, yes. It was on his resume.
According to his resume. Somebody called me up to inquire on that. Don't ever lie on a resume. Somebody will find out the truth.
Yeah. And Superman is clearly a fighter. Yeah, whether he may have magical abilities on his things, but he's a fighter with subclass magic.
Yeah, his magical abilities are passive. Things like the X-ray. Well, I mean, I guess
they're not exactly passive.
All right, I guess his heat vision is
and he can fly, but he's really a fighter because that's the primary stat that he has: super strength.
On the other hand, with the idea of sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, Arthur C. Clarke, that Superman clearly does have magical powers. Superman can fly, he can use X-ray vision, heat vision, so on, as opposed to Batman, who is strictly reliable on devices and strength.
Clearly a rogue.
Really, Batman more of a rogue?
Yes. What else is he? He's a rogue. He sneaks around. He goes into the darkness. It's all about the sneakiness and
he's pretty strong, though.
Yes, he is, but he's not a fighter per se.
Okay.
It's all about
Superman's
warfare.
more direct.
Yeah.
And it helps to be a fighter if you're invulnerable and super strength.
It's also what tools do they use? Superman uses fists. Batman uses tools. So yeah. I would have thought a magic user, but you think what he does is generally he picks things up, he throws things, and he punches things, or at least he did in the comics when we were reading them. Yes.
Well,
Coles have spoken, and they know all. Yes.
As for the Coles speaking, there is a common misconception that because somebody is, say, a movie actress. No, actually, actors. See, women don't get any respect anyway. But movie actors are often asked political questions. And why should they know any more about politics than anyone else?
Yeah.
They're good at playing a role.
Yeah. But we will have opinions on everything. So
we have opinions, yes.
You can ask us anything and we'll give you answers. They don't necessarily are real. You have to figure this out for yourself. Just because we say it doesn't make it so.
But we do keep up with the news in multiple different sources.
And reality is what you make of it. And that's kind of what thanks is all about, honestly. The reason we thank people every year is because saying thanks and being grateful is a way for longevity. Honestly, the idea of counting your blessings, that's usable.
Have we made ourselves younger?
I doubt we made it any younger, but
we haven't gotten much older.
Right. Well, we may never get older, at least not mentally. Being thankful, counting your blessings every day, think about things you could be thankful for, puts you in a better mood for facing a day, because honestly, there's a lot of crap that goes on in the day. So it helps to have start out with a good attitude and realize that there are a lot of things in this world that, one can be really thankful.
I got kicked out of my group that was all based on selfishness one time because I wrote an article that says that one of the best ways to be selfish can actually be to help others. And that basically if you do things that make another person's life better in a way that doesn't cost you anything, if it's free, it's worth it because happy people around you will do things for you. So it really is the selfish thing to do, is to make lives better for others.
Enlightened altruism.
And people absolutely hated that. They didn't want any touch of altruism. They said there's a slippery slope. Do something for someone else one time, and pretty soon you'll find yourself making sacrifices to do more of it. I found the reaction as interesting as the thought.
Yeah. Speaking of Quest for Glory lines, someone managed to get hold of Jess Harnell to fix the missing Franz line at the start. Unfortunately, Joan Gerber, Magda's voice actor, passed away in 2011. Oh, that's too bad. But, yeah, it's funny how society pays more attention to actors than to the characters they portray. Also, with Erin Brockovich as an example.
Brockovich,
yeah.
Who played Erin Brockovich? Somebody famous. Julia?
No. I can picture her, but I can't name her right now. Let's see. I started gratitude journaling to help keep that mindset. Oh, that's a good way of doing it. I just never...
We're not organized enough to journal.
to actually do something like
that. We're not organized enough to write down our game designs either.
Yes. Remember that Merlin series
was
inspired by Smallville. I didn't know that. Oh, okay, fine. Now you can get everybody sick.
Get everyone dizzy.
Yeah, right. But that's fine. That's much better.
Yep. Bring it up a little. Okay, there we go.
There we go, yeah.
That's why when we are looking at the screen that has the text, we'll be looking at the camera.
Maybe Superman is a fighter, but Clark Kent is a magic user. I don't know. I did not see...
Clark Kent is a rogue. Come on. He's in disguise all the time. He hides his identity. He comes up with stealthy ways to do things. He has the research skills of a newspaper reporter to ferret out crime before it happens. Clark Kent is clearly a rogue.
I missed most of the television series of Superman, so I missed Smallville. I missed whatever the more recent ones. The one I wanted to see.
It was Julia Roberts.
Okay, all right, good. The one I wanted to see was the cartoon Superman that was more recent. That one looked like a lot of fun, where they sort of reinvented the relationship between Clark Kent and Lois Lane and Jimmy. And that one looked like great fun.
What's Jimmy's last name?
Jimmy Olsen.
Jimmy Olsen,
You'll
of course.
know it, yeah. Right. Let's see. Personally believe in karma. What goes around comes around. Yes, greetings all. Yes.
No, this group I was in did not believe in karma. They believed that you made your own destiny.
Right, which in theory would be karma. If you make your own destiny, then it's because of the actions you take. I like the concept of karma. I think it's a good way to approach life. If what you do, everything you do has repercussions, and you really have to, weigh what the repercussions should be from that.
There's a line in one of the songs in the stage version of Wicked, probably kept in the movie, which is coming out soon, which is the wicked reap only what they sow. In other words, they plant seeds in the ground. The best they can get out of it, if they're lucky, is seeds. Whereas good people do the work and and get other people to help them and so on, so that they will eventually get a crop from what they sow.
It's not literal, Corey.
Well, all right. But
it is. You
represents, yes.
Every evil you do will
comes back to you as evil.
Evil, yes.
Oh, well.
You reap only what you sow. Sowing evil, then therefore you will have evil in your life. Yes. Let's see. I've been acquiring a few journals over the years. I think they're all still blank. I'm not much for self-chronicling. I'm the same way. I will do these things mentally, though. I will,
I have a couple of little notebooks that, I made game design notes and so on, but I don't usually get too far there before I go to the computer.
Right. And Erin Brockovich is a lawyer who did activist work to expose chemical abuse that was being done to children or something. She was played by Julia Roberts in the movie about her. Yes, thank you. And did you ever, in any of the behind-the-scenes videos that Sierra officially produced as extras in the game boxes, like Jane Jensen in the making of King's Quest 6? No, we didn't do those at the time. The closest we got to doing something like that was the time they blew up Corey.
Yeah, we did a commercial for Heroes Quest that...
for the first one. The first one was the only time we did a commercial.
And Mark Crow created a prosthetic arm of, what was that material?
What? Yeah, that was a real person's hand.
It was a real person's hand covered with green prosthetic that Mark Crow made out of a special kind of
latex. It was just
latex.
It wasn't a prosthetic. It was
latex. It wasn't prosthetic. It was a covering.
Yes, he
had a complete arm and hand, and he made claws for it.
Yeah, he made the claws for it.
Had a special glove for it, and reaching out of the desk and putting a disc in my desk. So I'm sitting there opening mail, and I come across this disc that says Heroes Quest. I say, that sounds interesting. And my acting is terrible in it. I kind of cringe seeing it, but it was me.
Yes, it's all Corey. Yeah.
My moment in the sun, and I put it in, the game starts up, and eventually it ends up with the, you should see it, but it's probably out there on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, I would think so.
But I basically end up in the game.
Yes. Let's see. Lois and Clark has become my favorite. Smallville brought some interesting twists to the franchise, but was also strange and different to sit with me. Yeah. My Life with Superman. I think that's the one. I saw 1 or 2 episodes on it, and it was really fun. It's cute. Did you guys program Quest for Glory back in the 90s yourself? Well, no, not
exactly. Lori was not a programmer at all at that point. So she did writing and conceptual design and art direction.
And direction for the first one, yeah.
Directed the team, yeah. I was a programmer, and I set up all the systems, like things for combat and for the role-playing stats and the character sheet and stuff like that. And then I helped out a little bit with the game programming, but mostly I directed the programmers. And
your mileage may vary with each game. It was different.
I got less and less into the programming as the series went along, and started doing more writing and direction.
Yeah, he wasn't involved in Quest for Glory 3.
Before I was just a designer and writer.
Right. So all in all, it all depends. I saw Wicked this afternoon. I hope you enjoyed it. Hi, folks. Hi, Yazidik. Yeah, hello, everybody from Auntie Azizi. Yay!
We loved the stage version of Wicked. We saw it 2 or 3 times.
I've been listening to the fan commentary on Superman the movie. Apparently, this was a much, much more influential movie than I realized. Richard Donner was a top level director. Well, I saw it when it was in the theaters, and it bugged me because I was a Superman fan, and Well, but I'm also a movie fan, and it starts out with telling you something you should not do. It tells Superman never to change time, never to go back and change time. And what do you know? You break that rule in that movie, and nothing happens. It was like, well, why did you give that rule, if there's no consequences to that rule? So yeah,
it's a reverse Chekhov's gun.
Yes.
So the idea of Chekhov's gun is Anton Chekhov, the playwright, said that if you have a gun lying on a nightstand in the first scene, you'd better have a payoff of that.
Right. So they had the gun. They gave the smoke. They gave you the warning, so you knew there was time travel involved. So then they paid off
and
again.
Time travel is dangerous and has repercussions.
But it didn't have any repercussions.
And they needed some time travel, and it was fine.
Yeah. It's okay. Also, I'd like to thank you for all the enjoyment I've had from the various worlds of these games. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Although one of the theories of time travel is that actually it doesn't have any consequences because the result is exactly what it was meant to be because the changes you made were what actually happened, and therefore nobody remembers any other reality.
Yes,
and therefore the reality is what it becomes.
Well, yes, so that's the branching theory of time travel.
Well, no, it becomes the old one. Time never happened.
Yes, but it's also the theory that this is a parallel world, that you have just created a branch on the parallel world.
Yes, the branch parallel world is basically that the other timeline goes on the way it was, and you've created a new timeline.
Nobody else knows it. Yes. Huh? It was pretty epic. It looked good, and it sounded great. The Superman, the movie, really did sound good. That soundtrack is very listenable. And he was a very handsome Superman, probably the best looking one of all the lot as far as I'm concerned. Yes.
Okay, I think there are 2 different videos being posted by Tashtari and OSU. So
keep in mind, satire. The satire is satire.
Oh, yeah, here's the Quest for Glory trailer. Let's do that one.
Yeah.
I need to get back to the
beginning. Yeah, you do.
And I need to share.
Share the screen.
Desktop.
There we go. And now he'll share.
This is on YouTube with the first link that was given by Tashtari.
You can see, that's Corey.
Corey with a beard and already starting to lose my hair.
See, Corey, there's nothing there. He just put makeup on her hand. There may be claws. He may have given her fingernails, but that is her
doesn't
hand.
even look like it.
Great special effects, yes!
And that's why I wasn't on the team for the later games.
Yeah, you blew up.
Heroes Quest 1. So you want to be a hero?
Oscar nomination, yeah.
You have been chosen to do battle against diabolical creatures. Cast magical spells and outwit even the most crafty opponents. As you roam the mystical village of Spielborg, you may learn a new spell at Zara's magic shop, practice the deceptive arts of thievery at the local town, and come face to face with a raging Sars in the enchanted forest. Heroes Quest is the first Sierra game to combine the excitement of fantasy role-playing with the intricate plot and puzzle-solving of an adventure game. Each character will face his quest differently, according to his own unique ability, and gain new skills through experience. Complete with a classic stereo soundtrack, Heroes Quest challenges adventurers of all ages to gain the honor and skill of a true hero. You do well, mortal. Watch this before
Definitely Oscar race talked it.
Yes,
Oscar level acting.
Yeah, we're good.
Oak Milk Latte.
Uh-huh.
I didn't switch off that.
Yeah, I tried to, but the hand was in the way.
Yeah, the other, I think the one OSU linked is the one that was kind of a fake interview of going around and asking various Sierra people what they thought of the other designers and so on. It was all pretty silly.
Always been curious how most people interpret that scene.
Which scene?
I don't know. I saw it as a conflict between his father Jor-El and his earthly father Jonathan Kent. He ultimately chose Jonathan Kent. I like, that's a good
probably
choice.
the consequences of time travel.
Yeah, but it did not. There's no consequence other than an eternal one. Yes, it's an internal conflict, but again, a rule. A lesson in not changing history from Mr. I'm my own grandpa.
From Futurama.
Yeah. In Smallville, they spun so that he went back in time to save Lana's life, and the consequences was his father Kent dying.
Jonathan Kent.
Oh, key part of the mythos. That was not in the
That's
mythos.
more like it.
But it is, the butterfly effect type of thing,
the classic one in science fiction literature was someone going back in time to kill Hitler as a boy before he became dictator, and it never works out well.
Henry Cavill is pretty good looking too, probably. State of the art 5.25 20, floppy disk, yes.
Well, I started out on 8-inch floppy disks on my CPM system, and then when I got we started doing software for Windows, actually no, pre-Windows, DOS, and I got an AT&T 6300, which is a PC clone, kind of 8086 level, and it had 5.25-inch discs. So when we started working the Atari ST, Laurie said, "Listen, better not yet have yet another disc format. We got these discs all over the house already." And sure enough, it had 3.5-inch hard shell discs.
Yeah. I'm curious what inspires you to utilize the hero theme often, and what does it mean to you? Well, all right. What the hero theme does is what I wanted to do with the whole series is to make you feel like this is a continuum, that your character really is going from the places to place, and having a reoccurring theme, reoccurring characters, and that was, to me, tying it all together. But, as a theme, it was, I wasn't totally enamored of the hero's theme. It was just a song, it was just a theme to bring in. But then, when we got to Quest for Glory 5...
Are you talking about the music?
The music, yes.
Oh, okay. I don't think they're talking about the music. I think they're talking about the idea of heroes.
Well, okay. The idea rather than music.
Yeah, the idea of having heroes is, basically, we were inspired by everything that we had read and played. And if you go back to Tolkien, pretty much all fantasy literature is about ordinary people becoming heroes and doing heroic things. Every once in a while, it's about heroes doing heroic things. But most things, Knights of the Round Table, Gawain doesn't start out, Lancelot does not start out as a Superman.
Yeah, pretty much does, unless you read,
depending which one you have.
What version you're reading, yeah.
Yeah, certainly Once and Future King.
Yes, he was anything but.
What was he called? Runt?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Does not start out as the brave and mighty King Arthur.
Right.
And so the idea of role playing and that you get to be a hero is fun for people.
That and the fact that we did grow up. I read comic books. I read Superman as a child. I read the Batman comics. These were influenced on my life, and the idea that we have control over our own fate, that we are responsible for our lives and for our future and the people around us, to me resonates. I want us to be heroes. I want to be a hero in life. And so, and besides, that's a great feeling, and that's what when I GM, because I was really, we did a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and I was a GM, and really what it was is letting the players feel like they're empowered through their actions. And that's when the best moments in D&D ever occurred. Even if they were sacrifices in some cases, which the one game.
Yeah, we occasionally had one where a player basically decided that The only way they were going to defeat this terrible thing was for them to make the ultimate sacrifice. And boy, you remember those characters for a long time.
You remember that event. So we wanted to give those events, that experience, to everybody that played our games effectively. So yeah. I had no idea this video existed. Where was this played? Was this advertised on TV? No, it was really on...
trade shows, yeah.
It was at trade shows, but it was on...
oh, that's right. Yeah, Sierra released a VHS videotape.
Yes.
These huge VHS cartridges every year with their catalog of upcoming titles, and that was their promotion that they sent out to basically store distributors and stores and any fan that ordered it.
So that's what that was. Yes,
so that was part of that. So we actually have that one of those videos somewhere in the garage.
So that's one of the things I like about the series. There are consequences for your actions in each game. As Lori said in interviews, this isn't a comic that keeps going on forever. That's the one thing I dislike about Greg Weisman's philosophy. Some of his stories, he seems to prefer to never give you closure at the end. Ew, that bugs me. I like closure. Yeah. Not gonna lie, my brain went to the hero's theme right at the end, but I'm very musically driven in my thinking. Well, the thing with the music, as I said, I wasn't too crazy about the theme, but it was something we wanted to keep repeating and bringing back to keep that cohesion. And then in Quest for Glory 5, they brought on Chance to be our musician, and he gave some really cool stuff. But I did have to say, okay, this is all great, but we really do have to have this theme come back in, because that will bring all our fans will remember it, and they will, they'll feel like,
fuzzy feelings.
We're coming home. It's part of it. And sure enough, the first year of the production of the game, we were nowhere in the game. There was nothing to show. There was nothing. And of course, Sierra had wanted to, Yosemite Entertainment at the time needed to show something. So they had put Chance on full time that whole, 8 months.
Which is extremely unusual. For Heroes Quest, Mark Siebert came in 2 months before the game.
And then basically
kick out that music in no time flat.
But Chance had a time to really give us themes and things like that, and they called everybody on the team in at one time, and we all listened to the music, that CD that Chance had made, and it brought tears to my eyes to hear when that theme comes in. It's like, yes, this is great. This is. And it was so beautiful. Continuity. It was beautiful, and the music was so inspiring, and I really felt like, yes, we really have done something, and this is great, yes. The Meeting of Heroes and the main stream perception of the idea seems to have evolved, and not necessarily for something better, almost as if the definition changed, but the word remained the same.
It's a question of who you ask.
Right.
Okay, so a conservative's idea of a hero is a strong and powerful person who is brave.
And who can take charge and leadership.
It is specifically a soldier, a firefighter, a policeman. It is someone who goes into dangerous situations and does what needs to be done and is strong enough to do it.
Well, and to go back further, definition of a hero.
Trojan War?
All those heroes, quote unquote, of the Greek heroes were scummy people. They left their wives. They had, affairs. They abandoned their children. They were not what we consider to be heroes today. Our definition of heroism and what it means has changed. And we're defining it now very differently than people back then did.
So what I used to refer to as bleeding heart liberals, which happened to include us, but I came up coined that term when I donated money to a group one time, and all of a sudden 12 other groups or 30 other groups came in demanding money from me. But the liberal idea of a hero is somebody who is a good person, who helps little old ladies across the street was a theme in the Boy Scouts.
What the once upon a time when Boy Scout meant something and was a symbol of all of those values and those things. And we've lost some of those values. I will give you that. Right now, we're in a mess, a morass of people that are kind of lost without themes in that. So games and help to, reinforce the idea that there are, moral grounds to live in. Yes. Yeah, the Greek-Egyptian idea of a hero seemed to be all about conquest and achieving amazing things. In those days, you could just beat people up and rape their wives and still be called a hero at the end of the day. Can't pull that shit anymore.
Oh, well.
Yeah, well, times change, values change.
If you're the winner and you rape the wife of a loser, probably because you killed him, so it's not really rape anymore. You're just remarrying them sort of temporarily.
Right, yeah. I don't think that goes.
That's perfectly acceptable. It's the winners showing their dominance over the losers.
Yeah.
And that is kind of frowned upon today. And having used that word twice in the stream, we've now made the stream mature level, and I guess I'll have to rebrand it. Yeah. Not allowed to use that word.
Oh, that's true.
The R word.
The R word, yes. In keeping with this discussion on heroes and becoming one, I really like the Arc of Deramod and Guy Kay's...
the Fluvionar Tapestry, which we have not read.
I did not read, yeah. I just wanted to know what happened with Shara afterwards. And Mark Siebert equals legend and music.
Mark Siebert was very talented.
Yes.
When I first came to Sierra, one of the first...
Hi, naming collision. Yep. Go ahead.
Things as I was being shown around, as I was brought into the music production room, there were two people there, Stuart Goldstein and Mark Siebert. And Stuart was the programming guru for... he had created all of the stuff for MIDI and for the music programming. And then Mark Siebert was in charge of the actual musicians. And the two of them worked together to create just, incredible tools and really great music in the games. Because you had to remember, this had to work. There was no consistency when we were on DOS between devices. So it had to work on the one voice speakers on the PC, on the, three voices on the Tandy 1000, and the four voices of the Atari ST, on MIDI. And they brought in the Sound Blaster and the Roland MT32. It's just a wide range of quality and subtlety to the musical devices. And they came up with a system that made the games sound pretty good in all of them. Great, of course, in the high-end ones.
The dance of mystery and intrigue was what brought tears to my eyes, but not all of my friends were moved by it. Honestly, I think there was the music for Quest for Life 5 was just very, very good. I mean, it's just wonderful. But I remember what that scene, the Signs of the Dryad Woods, that for Quest for Glory 5, I remember what it looked like in the drawing before it had to be digitized. And the line drawing was superb, and the characters were superb. And then when they animated it, they were all stiff and not very interesting. That game really begs to be remade.
Yeah, we're very frustrated with the visuals in Quest for Glory 5, because that is by far the most sophisticated and complicated story and text of all of our games. But it comes across as kind of cartoony because the low resolution 3D graphics. Yeah. It was what could be done at the time, but it does not match up to the game design.
And honestly, the art design for that game was so much better than what it looked like. We had great artists behind it, and then yet it was before its time.
Leonard says, for me, somehow I was perceived a hero as someone who is willing to sacrifice for people they love, and they do not have to be someone special. A hero can be anyone who does something for us which we're powerless or too afraid to do for ourselves. Doesn't always have to be, but it seems the most accurate at its core. I see people who are considered great leaders in the culture are giving children and vulnerable minds the idea that you must be someone special to be a hero.
Exactly.
Okay, Sal, now this is just one of the many different views on it, because to me, a hero is someone who does something for someone that they do not have any obligation to. So is not necessarily someone they love. A hero is someone who will help people for no reason at all, or no personal reward.
Yeah. But honestly, I agree with you. It can be anybody. That was not the message we were giving with the Chosen One theme that we had with Quest for Glory 1. I mean, with the whole series, and even with the ones we're going with now, the Hero U stories. The people that we're choosing for protagonists are special people, but that's only because it's a lot more interesting to make a game about an interesting person than it is to make it about a normal person. But I agree with you entirely that really we need to make people, games that have characters that seem much more normal and more average. They do not need to be the chosen one or just happen to be born into the right family, and that anybody can create their own destiny and become a hero. So yes, I agree with that. 4 is the most complex story. 5 is pretty complex.
There's a lot there.
4 is going to be my favorite anyway, so yeah.
So Quest for Glory 1, Hero's Quest, your hero comes in there, and what really makes him stand out as a hero is because everyone in the valley is cowed by the the terrible things that have happened there. And the hero is the one person who comes in there and is willing to go around and do things. They're not afraid.
Right. So, yes, in Quest for Glory 1, he is not the chosen one. There's a thing that goes around, and he happens to fit it, but it's not necessarily him. But we have more of them. It gets more kind of like reinterpreted that maybe, yes, he had noble birth or something like that as we go along. But that's because it just was interesting approach.
Well, and it says we allow average people to feel special themselves. And, we certainly don't think that we're terribly exceptional. We're good at a few things. And we're not the world's best storytellers. I'm not the world's best programmer, but we're pretty good at it. And so we put that together in ways that, spoke to regular people, because we're kind of regular people.
Yes. Ask what is a hero, and then I go back to my poem, which I can't do by mine.
But anybody here can quote it,
yes.
though.
A hero is anyone who does something for someone without expecting or hoping for anything or from anyone in return. Otherwise, it becomes more of a business transaction.
There we go.
Yes, Corey had first proposed altruism as a business transaction. That if you do good for someone, they will turn around and do good for you.
Well, not necessarily, or just the atmosphere will be more pleasant around all of you.
But the idea that you do not have to expect something in return, that it isn't a business transaction, but that it is karma that you're spreading out. Yes, isn't that literally in one of Omer's poems? Yes, it is. It is. Ask what is a hero. And thank you, Dan Miller, Dragon Warrior. They are special because we make them special.
There we go.
Yes.
I read a research study a long time ago that said that they basically went around the street and had research assistants that basically went around with very, frowny expressions, and they had other ones go around with smiling as they went along, and they discovered that smiling is contagious. That if you smile at people, the people that see it start smiling themselves, and it has a ripple effect that goes around.
It might be a little like the fact they said yawns are contagious. It might be just the same thing. We are, programmed.
We're imitative.
Programmed to imitate. I mean, I don't know. With me, if I'm around somebody with a heavy accent, it's conscious. You have to not imitate.
Not duplicate their accent. It's hard. As a teenager, I did that all the time and 20-something.
Yes, you start to pick up their cadence, and it's subconscious. You start to mirror them because that's the way we are programmed to learn and to do things.
The side aspect of it is, when we're happy about something, we smile. when we smile, it makes us happier because it reminds the body of those past positive experiences. Yeah. So just putting a smile on your face will make you feel better.
Yeah, for a while they said, I put a pencil in your mouth to make you smile, and then people started feeling better because they were in a smile position as though the physical position was what mattered, and they debunked that study afterwards, which really was pretty silly. Let's see. In a way, you allow average people to feel special about themselves, and I think that had some kind of overall positive and very constructive part upon me. So thank you for elucidating so much.
I can't read that one already.
Okay, well.
I summarized it.
You summarized it. Well, I'll literalize it.
All right.
Yes, we wanted people to feel special about themselves. I mean, that was important. These are actually ideas that went into what we do because really, game design, being a GM, there are many reasons to be a GM, but one of it is for everybody to have fun together. I mean, and that's what we were trying to do when we moved to the computer, is try to make people feel good.
I've always had a pretty big overbite, and my mouth is, everyone in my family's mouth is slightly asymmetrical. So I was like, I actually don't know how to smile.
I see.
And they don't usually give you lessons. I had to know both rows of teeth and they had to line in something, which is totally wrong. Most people don't learn how to kiss properly either. That's we just don't get good lessons on this.
Yes. I feel like I owe it to myself to learn as much as I can about you all and your ideas and the imagination you poured into the work, the Quest for Glory series, not only to learn to pay it forward more effectively, but also to understand myself better. Well, great. And yes, pay it forward is just such a wonderful concept.
It is, yeah. Now, the idea of learning more about us in order to understand our work better, well, the whole idea of the thing is that, well, we're ordinary. Anybody could have done this. Our background for getting into Sierra was mostly that we had a contact. But other than that, the fact that we had been running Dungeons & Dragons games. Now, as we ran Dungeons & Dragons games, we learned to do that by the people that were the game masters before us. We played in their games. And there were, at the very least, hundreds of excellent dungeon masters at the time that we started Quest for Glory. And in theory, any of those could have started it. But Lori and I were a unique team because of, A, we had the D&D experience, B, Lori had teaching and art experience, and writing, teaching, writing, and art. And I had programming.
And animation classes, for that matter. Yeah. We were uniquely
suited for doing it, but there are probably hundreds of people that had as good a qualifications as we did. We fell into it.
We were lucky. But it was something we wanted to do. You have to have that desire and the willingness to take chances, because that's the other thing. There are all sorts of things, opportunities that come in your life. And sometimes you have to drop everything and just say, we'll do it. Even though the consequences, could be disastrous, which, yes, moving to Sierra was not exactly
it was pretty traumatic, yeah. And we were not making enough money to live on, so kind of tough. We eventually got it to work. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite lines from Evita, the musical, was, filled a gap, I was lucky, but one thing I'll say for me, no one else can fill it like I can.
Yes, no one else could have done this like we did.
Luck gets you into, the circumstances where you can make a difference, and then it's what you do with being there that is the measure of your character.
And I like to think of life as, before you're born, you're playing a game of cards, and they deal you a hand. And that's your skills, your advantages, and your disadvantages. And you get born with those skills and disadvantages, and your life is trying to make the best of that hand that you were given. So, yes. Oh,
thanks for the 2-1 subs, Leonard.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
And they ask, what is a hero? Though the answer's very clear. He's the one who faces danger when the darkness hovers near.
He doesn't do it for glory, and he does it not for gain, but because he knows that others will be spared a greater pain.
He won't all he won't all get skipped up where
he won't always follow orders, for he dares to answer why. And unless he likes the reason, he refuses to comply.
See, we're anarchists in that. Yeah.
This was all, very intentionally done. The whole ideas of Spielberg, not Spielberg, Shapiro and Rassier, was that they were opposites, and that Shapiro supported people and made them able to lead their best lives, and the agents of the Sultan.
All those, yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. And the agents of the Sultan went around making sure that good people were rewarded and so on. And Rassier was just the opposite. It was all rules based and very structured, and you did not have the freedom to live your best life.
But it was also in opposition to what the Paladin class was in D&D, because the Paladin class had that strict alignment scale called lawful good, which meant he had to obey orders, he had to do everything as it is intended, and that he was upholding the laws, and that to me was, bad law is a bad law, and therefore ask the reason why. And besides, as a kid, I had on my wall, question authority,
so
as a poster. So, we were always...
that was very popular in the 70s. The late 60s, early 70s. I lost my thought.
He will face the fiercest foe when another needs his aid. He will dare to defy death, even though he is afraid. He works not just for glory, and he does it not for gain, but because he knows that others will be spared a greater pain.
I read that part.
All right. We're reading it out loud.
Okay. In original Dungeons & Dragons, there was no concept of good and evil for player characters. It was assumed that all players are on the good side.
Boy, was that a mistake.
Well,
even the DMs are often lawful evil or evil. Yeah.
So law versus chaos was the alignment scale. And that the most lawful people followed, respected authority, followed rules, did things by the book, and the most chaotic, chaos was considered bad. Chaotic meant that you were not predictable, and you could hurt people because you didn't care, etc. And eventually they came up with the for AD&D, second or Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, they came up with the grid, where it was law versus evil on one axis, and law versus chaos on one axis, and good versus evil on the other axis.
Which I think is a great way of looking at it.
It's a great scheme. But that was an advanced version of Dungeons & Dragons that came up with that. And that was when they introduced the Paladin class at the same time. And they said the Paladin had to be in the absolute top left corner of both lawful and good. And that if you deviated from either one of those, then you would lose your Paladin status.
Yeah.
So we had a friend that ran a game that basically presented a series of dilemmas to Paladin characters where you had to choose. Were you going to be good or were you going to be lawful? You couldn't be both.
Yeah, so that was the kind of thing that we like people to actually have to, think about these things. I'll go back up.
I was going to see all these nice subscribers we have thanks to Landon.
Yes, Landon, yes. Let's see.
Landon's a hero.
Yes. Brainiac says he said the one he quoted was specifically for the pally potential. Really, I didn't realize we did the difference. Yes.
Pally potential, was that was that a flag in there that said that
we must have had a pally potential?
You were partly qualified for being a paladin?
He will face his fate unflinching, for he is a paladin. Yeah, I know. My scansion's a little off on that. It's very hard to...
And the rhyme scheme, but that's fine.
Hey, the rhymes... Have you looked at how Shakespeare rhymed words? They just had to be
creative.
spelled the same way, and even though they weren't pronounced the same way at the time, even then. Yes. Let's see. Very proud to be here and be part of such a lovely group of people who care so deeply about others and want to create such a magical experience. This is the best medicine. Exactly. It's so good for the soul. And that's why we thank you. That's why we do this, is to get together and group up and actually have the, know that we are not alone.
So for Heroes Quest and Quest for Glory 2 production, Lori represented law and I represented chaos. I was the one that was constantly taking serious discussions and turning them into puns and jokes and, trying to make things just a little bit silly and fun. And Lori was trying to tell a story.
Yep. Yes. And,
and direct the team.
Brave the darkness, because this was Shadows of Darkness. What does being subscribed get you? Can we make R-rated jokes now? Nah, sorry. Those still get us.
I think it allows you access to our emotes. So if you go
That's it, yeah.
:TRANSO, that's short for trans solar, and if I'd had a choice, I would have made it differently. And then you can do things like Transo U, and that will give you the sheep emoticon.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. I've always felt the third axis is needed for myself, but that's not my call. I think that we are all...
most people are at least three-dimensional.
Yeah. And then we've always used the Myers-Briggs scheme of how to represent people's personalities, whether or not it's valid as a form of psychoanalyzing or anything like that. It's a good template for thinking about how people are, and that people do not think the same way.
Now, the z-axis could be the extrovert versus introvert.
Yeah, but it's more than that. Extrovert versus introvert, we're all grayscale on that anyway, so it isn't that defining. You could argue for active to passive, but that's just...
and thinking versus feeling.
Yes,
that's
I think
a
pretty good one.
That's a pretty good axis.
Because, yes, it does make a difference, too.
And there are thinkers who feel and feelers who think, but,
Yeah.
So once again, most of us are some combination of it. But that's why it's an axis instead of a
Paladin
point.
equals Boy Scout equals Goody Two-Shoes. Well, not quite in our scheme of things, though.
Well, let's just see. So,
when there is, the whole idea that you can question authority does not make you, you will not necessarily turn the other cheek when somebody's out there killing somebody. The law of the land, it says they have the right to kill somebody.
Yes, Boy Scouts are not told that they have the moral right to break the law in order to do what is good.
Yes, yeah.
And in our games, you do have that right. If you go to Rassier and you follow the laws, you're certainly not overthrowing wasn't the Emir, whoever was the...
Huh?
Who was the... well, of course, it was an evil wizard, but the evil wizard was controlling, and the warrior was his captain of the guard. Kaveen. Named after Rick Cavan, who was our general manager at Sierra.
All of that is
There's a lot of Sierra allegory.
Quest
for Glory 2 is an interesting game that way. Anyway, a Boy Scout, a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I once had that memorized for a long, long time, but I had to look it up now. But the trustworthy, this is good. Loyal. So what we have with various leaders today is they emphasize one or two of those. Our future president emphasizes loyalty.
Yes, that's his byword.
Trustworthiness, couldn't care less about that.
Yeah.
So people who pick and choose from the Boy Scout virtues. So I was just going to say that our paladin is strong on the helpful, but not so strong necessarily on the obedient side. He's trustworthy, but not necessarily obedient. You don't follow the law when the law is wrong.
Yeah.
You don't obey a superior if the superior is telling you to kill people.
Let's see. And Leonard says they've discovered that they're a paladin for sure, but oddly more chaotic neutral, leaning towards lawful neutral. Yeah, well, that's perfectly valid in our way of looking things. So not a paladin, but there's nothing wrong with being chaotic neutral, you know. Now, this makes me think of the Goblins comic strip where one character questions, everybody thinks they're doing good. How can you tell good from evil? That's a great question, and your society is going to define good and evil. And, you know...
the paladin in the comic answers, good gives aid without proof, but requires proof to condemn. Evil is the other way around. Requires proof to receive aid, but not as much to condemn.
Huh.
Oh, I don't know. Most people are happy to receive aid.
We are all good and evil, or have the potential for both.
But as far as everyone thinking they're good, so not everyone necessarily thinks that they're good in their own hearts, but in general, people think that they're doing what they have to do. What should be done.
Yeah, they're doing what they think they need to do to survive.
And I've had people scoff at the entire idea of doing things to help other people because they said, you can't afford to do that. Nobody does that. You do what is good for yourself.
Yeah, and that doesn't help society, and it certainly doesn't like it. It's bad in a leader. Yes.
Now, I think if you have a certain level of Twitch membership, you can actually take our remotes and use them in other channels.
Yes, I think
but
so.
I don't have that, so.
And thank you for sharing. I think we should start a discussion group in Transsolar Games Discord dedicated to these topics. I would geek out with you any day. Speaking of Discord, we should
share our Discord.
And that's where you all should be. Remember that, that gets you in touch with Corey anytime. Or at least once a week or so.
And Lori checks in once a month or so.
Yeah, I check in when I, when
I tell her to check in.
Yeah, I know.
Invite people. Here we go.
All right.
Copy. Okay. Here is a temporary invite key for our Discord. This is, I believe, good for the next week.
Yes. If you are not part of Discord, get there. Because this is where we talk about things, which is where everybody talks about anything.
You can also find us by looking up Transsolar Games, 2 words, on Discord, and that will get you to our server.
What's so bad about having 2 shoes? Yes. MBTI, introverted, extroverted, intuitive, sensory, thinking, feeling, and judging, perceiving. I really liked...
Myers-Briggs, yes.
Myers-Briggs. I really liked the distinction between intuitive and sensory. And that made a lot of sense to me. My father was a sensory person. It meant that he liked, he liked being active. Its physical things brought him pleasure. And that he needed to do things, or he needed to have things, active around him. Whereas intuitive, which was my brother, my mother, and I, we all would sit around and read books, and we were perfectly content, and we didn't need to go out or do things. And, it wasn't introversion.
You live within your own space.
We lived within our own space and did not need the outside world to affect it. And I think that's a great way of looking at differences. Yes.
We're going to need light in a few minutes. We're slowly getting dimmer here.
With the way you guys used to run Hero U, I feel like your life's work been teaching the younger generation how to be heroes. We've tried. And honestly, there's a lot of fun to that. Yes.
And we've also made some money from it. Not that much, but some. So,
we'll turn on the light while you're yakking.
Yeah, so from people that say, we just blinded everyone.
Yes, blacked out, yeah.
I know, my face is all red. My face is sometimes red.
Yeah,
I never quite figure that out. People are living from a viewpoint of looking out for number one, and you gotta, do things for yourself first. That's a perfectly reasonable survival thing. To go beyond that is like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, is to say that you have already made it past the survival level, and now you're moving up towards the actualization level. Is that you can actually start thinking about, it's my radical idea in that essay that was move up to level 2 and say, okay, in order to make life better for myself, I can make life better for people around me, and that's good for me too. And then you can move up to the next level and say, you can do good things just because it's, the right thing to do in the long run.
That there is right and wrong
I've,
in the world.
that I have spare capacity, might as well use it. If you were a billionaire, you could say, okay, I can afford to give a few million or even a few hundred million in the case of someone like Bill Gates to improve water quality and healthcare in Kenya. Various places in Africa.
The idea that this world is one world and we're all human beings, and maybe we are all one tribe. That's important, and that's the other thing we were doing with our games, is making you go from place to place and meeting all these different people, and that realizing that they're all people and that we're all the same tribe. We just have different cultural differences, and that we really need to think, less insular, less only our people, and more everybody, and try and make things work that way.
It's also a matter of internal attitude. Are you coming from a viewpoint of poverty, that you never have enough, and you're always short, you're starving, you can't afford to give anything away because you don't have enough for yourself? Or are you coming from a viewpoint of sufficiency that says, I may not have, Elon Musk's assets, but I have enough. I have my life, it's good enough, and I actually have a surplus, that I have a pretty good life, and I can pass some on. And that there's no harm to me in doing that. So it's a question of kind of, where your values are. And also, of course, many people are actually starving. And they have reason to feel poor. But one of the studies showed that percentage, relative to percentage of income, there was actually the lower middle class that were more generous than wealthier people.
Yeah.
Because they know that they're dependent on others' generosity.
It isn't just that they know.
It's
this
just
is their
they feel
right.
what is right.
Right
yes.
is right. Yes.
And it makes them richer by giving away.
Arlo says, I feel like no matter who the hero saves, Iran or Katrina, he has some unfinished business with the other. We really need a few more games in the series for him to divorce whoever he saved and explore what he has with the other one.
Well, from our viewpoint, no actual need to do the divorce.
Right. Well, and you don't have to marry the person you saved, after all. So yes, he could have, another story in which he does go out and to save the other person. There is no reason why we have that, except it makes it memorable. I mean, sometimes the whole point of as game designers, we want the player to really realize the consequences of actions. And that's, that is one of them. That is a major consequence. You're condemning the other to oblivion, effectively. But it's not something you want to do very often, because, it hurts.
Leonard asks, what does loyalty mean to you? And to me, it's very closely tied in with trustworthy. It's commitment is the word we like to use, rather than either trustworthiness or loyalty, is that you are committed to what you said you would do. So if we say that we will make a game and that we will deliver things to some people, life will get in the way, and inevitably, and it may take us a very, very long time.
Sorry about that.
But eventually we'll do that. Loyalty on a team is really important, because if you've got a team of people developing a project, and each one of those people has knowledge that really cannot be duplicated outside the team, then staying with it till the end, that's loyalty. But that's also very closely tied in with trustworthiness.
And believe me, we don't feel people are disloyal because they have to leave our teams.
Yes. Reality
is such. So that isn't really a
But
measure.
They should default to staying with what and completing what they said they would do.
Loyalty isn't high on our list of things that make a paladin. Honestly, it's like, yes, it's nice to have people that are loyal to you, but that isn't the criteria that you do things.
I've actually had that heard that discussion about conservatives and liberals, that they all have the same kind of code in terms of, you know, what's important, what's good, but the emphasis is different. So to a conservative, loyalty and consistency are the top of the list. To a liberal, helpfulness, generosity are the top of the list. And those are on the list for both sides, but it's the priority.
Yeah, okay.
The emphasis, as Larry says.
Let's see. How do you decide who deserves it? It isn't who deserves it, it's who needs it, really. That's the key. Yeah, I mean, everybody, even the bad people, you know, have some of these people, you realize that their lives have been absolute, you know, hell. And sometimes they need a little sympathy, especially the ones, you know, the people in prison and things like that. They made bad choices and they had a terrible hand. You know, they were dealt with a sucky hand and they just tried to do something that probably wasn't right. But that doesn't make them, you know, evil.
Question is, if you take out back in the old days when we used to carry money, you take out your wallet and you hand a $20 bill to someone, are you afraid that the next thing they're going to do is grab the wallet and take the rest of it? Or are you just doing it for its own sake? And, you know, is giving money to beggar. We actually had a fan come to us. We had a scene in Quest for Glory 3. A major part of it is helping a beggar.
There's two, actually, two.
Three is the one where you've got the one who is the non-person.
Yes, but but it wasn't him. It was two, because that was the paladin one, and that you gave it to the beggar.
Well, the comment was about three because it was a person who was from South Africa.
Yeah, but
and he said that basically
you feed a beggar.
That the beggars are all part of organized crime, and if you give money to a beggar, you're basically making it so that is more profitable for them than working for a living, so they won't work, and you're actually hurting them.
Right, and likewise that comes when people were saying that all the beggars in LA wore brand new shoes, so they were all just out there, you know, just driving it, and there were no real beggars in LA. You know, they were just all faking it, trying to get money for nothing.
The guy in front of a convenience store came up and offered to squeegee my windows, and they needed it, and I did that, and I gave him $1 or $2, something like that. And a police car came up and said, "Did you ask that guy to do that?" And I had to kind of stand up for the beggar who was doing that, because the police officer wanted them off the streets and felt that they were taking advantage of people, giving them services they didn't want or need, and getting money for it.
So it's all a matter of, you know, do you really believe that all the beggars are scam members and con men, and you have this thing that they're out to get you, and that, you know, or do you have this feeling like, hey, they are trying to do something, especially in the guy doing squeegee work and things like that. They're honestly trying to find a way to get a transaction there going so that they got something for their action.
And that they're actually doing something, and it's not just begging for a handout. So, you know, I find that a little worthier than just asking for money.
And what are buskers? The people that sit on the street and perform, you know, music. They're looking for people to pay money. They're effectively begging with their music, but they're trying to give something in return.
Although when I did that, it was for the sheer joy of making music, and I didn't need money.
But
I was with a group of people.
Yeah.
I was with a group of people, many of whom did need money, and you know, they shared it at the end. But giving money to a beggar is just a proxy for the idea of generosity, because you know, it can be done on other levels. It can be done as you know, voting for someone that is going to pass laws that help provide housing for people that don't have it. It can be for voting for things that improve the quality of air and water, because, you know, it's improving everyone's health, including your own.
If all you do is look out for number 1, pretty soon you step in number 2.
Cute.
And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's house actually coded the "can't be a paladin" flag when you break into it.
Uh-oh.
You got to get rid of that.
That's a spam.
Okay, well then you could do it that way, yeah. AGD's remake probably fixed that. Yes, being a thief paladin was kind of against the rules. Because honestly, if you're going to break into people's houses, you're going to make people unhappy, and you're contributing to the general decay of the universe.
And the terror.
Yes, and terror. Yes.
Terror.
I think gratitude factors in that too. Having a sense of gratitude for what you have instead of being envious of those who have more. Always, yeah, that's a real trick.
It'll go away.
And even it was, the paladin things were tough. They were everything we invented for these games were nightmares to balance out.
Yeah, Quest for Glory 2 was particularly a nightmare because we had a team of like 5 or 6 programmers, and each of them worked on a certain number of scenes in the game. And so you had someone that was working on the, I'm thinking 2 or am I thinking 3? Anyway, it doesn't matter. People worked in the scenes at the beginning of the game and later on. And so you did things. Could you become Paladin at the end of 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened was that at the end of Quest for Glory 2, if the things you had done added up to being a paladin, then you were sent back to the opening scene of the game where you first met Rakesh and his wife, and then you had the paladin ceremony. But unfortunately, that room had been coded at the beginning of the game and didn't have somebody else wrote the code to send you back there, but nobody looked at as Lori is constantly revising scripts. The scene with Rakesh did not have the code in there that handled the paladin ceremony. So you got sent back to the room and the game started over again. Pay no attention to my phone, please.
Yeah, okay.
Even and we caught that just before the game shipped. It almost went out the door with an infinite loop in the game.
Yeah. So yes.
You really need to communicate with everything.
So yes, there's bugs, and after that, I started creating the flags, tags for things so they could be consistent throughout the game.
And then she could go into her script and say, "Okay, check this tag. If it is set, do this."
Right. So basically, I was writing scripts that were, if statements.
Yeah, quasi-programming.
Yes. There's a level below which people cannot help themselves, and and it's such a fight to raise yourself out of it. Yeah, I agree that people who are busking or offering a service are at least trying to work for dollars. They're not simply asking for a handout for nothing like some do. And there's always the ones that are really, really bad at it. They've got the janky guitar and it's horrible sounding and they have no clue that they're so bad that you want to give them money just to shut them up. But at least they're trying, yes.
For the most part, I find street musicians are immensely talented.
Yes.
And every bit as good as professional performers.
And often they are just there,
and sometimes they are professional performers that are out there just playing for fun.
Mm-hmm. I more often than not give money for musicians on the street. I try to when I, generally.
Don't scroll any further.
Okay.
Touchtardy made the comment, there's some weirdness in the original game about Omar's purse.
Uh-huh.
So here's the problem. It's the problem that we have with riddles in games. Is what is the intention? It's also the problem with having words fed into your mouth, like in LucasArts games where they would, let you choose one of 3 choices, but whatever choice you picked, it then expanded it into a complete sentence and said, wait, that's not what I meant to say.
That wasn't LucasArts.
Lots of games, anyway.
But, yeah, it was Star Wars in particular did that, and it drove us crazy. That wasn't what I meant to say.
That wasn't my point.
Yeah,
I'm finished. So my point is that if you are interacting, if you open the purse, there is no way for the game to know the nuance of, is your intention to take the coins inside, or is your intention to find if there's a name or an address or identification in there. So it is that kind of nuance is really hard to pull off with a simplistic interface.
If we thought about it, you could get but that was before we had the drop choices.
Yeah, this is typed in.
Right, so we did not have that facility. So there's an advantage then to the non-parser game where we could actually ask you, what do you want to do with this? And then your intention becomes what is flagged for Paladin.
Now, of course, with typed input, if you said take money from purse, that's pretty obvious.
Right, but...
If you say look in purse, it can say, okay, there's money and there's a note.
Yeah.
And then you can say read note. And if you never say take money, then you don't get the money.
Right, so...
And, and we may have done that to some extent. The question is how well.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It's hard. Programming is hard. Writing games is hard. Yes. Let's see. You have to account for everything basically with a lot of programmers, even the ones who don't need to sometimes. Yes, exactly. Was it?
And we had very little memory in Quest for Glory 2, in fact, crashes frequently at the end. Because if you have a lot of fights with the Jackal Man in the desert, each one of those leaks some memory, and by the end of the game it crashes.
Was it super stressful to not deliver huge bugs? Not like you could patch it back in the day with all these new, like nowadays. Oh, believe me, creating a game.
You wanted to deliver a clean game, but you also wanted to deliver a sophisticated and fun game. And those are contradictory.
Right. Well, we didn't care about we wanted the fun game. That was our priority. The company's priority was to get it to ship before Christmas. That was all their priority. And that meant that a lot of these didn't get tested as much as they should. So
yeah, the old quality triangle is fast, cheap, good. Pick two.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I find you can pick one.
Yeah. As a result, I hated my games after they were released. There wasn't a single game that didn't have a major nasty ass bug. And although 3 was as close, it felt like it when it came out. But every one of them destroyed me when they were released, and I found out they were buggy, and there were problems with it. Those were just devastating things. Yes, it was physically, disturbing. I never read reviews for that reason because it basically drained me, like the line again in Vita. You won't care if they love you. It's been done before. You'll despair if they hate you. You'll be drained of all energy. It did. Any complaint, any criticism just drained me. Yes. Script 52, my mortal enemy.
That's Lori refused to read reviews if a review was 90% positive and had one negative thing, which reviewers are required to put in their reviews.
I know it, but I didn't have to read it.
She didn't have to hear it.
No, because I take the problems to heart. And especially when they weren't necessarily my fault, but I have to say that the purse one was probably our fault, or at least mine, because it never... Well, actually ours, because you were co-designer on that, because we did not specify the...
I don't know what we specified. It was so long ago.
We didn't specify a lot. The programmers had to do a lot of work on the early games, because we were not, mini-maxing or the whole thing. Whereas by the time we got to Road to Redemption, we're specifying almost everything in one way or another.
Yeah, at one point... at Sierra, one of the meeting rooms, they had one of Roberta's maps from one of the King's Quests put out there. And it basically was, several sheets of paper attached, taped together, and broken up to grids. And each square had just a few words on it, like Dwarves Cottage, and then something to do there. And I talked to one of the people who was the lead programmer on one of the early games, and he said basically that's all they gave her. That's all she gave them. And they had this very, very sketchy map with here's what's in each place, and the programmers effectively created the game. They decided what all the details were and, what actually happened. What were the interactions? There was a, Goldilocks scene in one of them where you had the, too big and too small and too hot and too cold and so on. Effectively, the team had to extrapolate from these very scanty notes and develop it.
Yeah, whereas
now, the stories we hear from Ken Roberto are, of course, totally different than that. So, who knows?
And mine were always hugely complex.
Lori's were complicated.
I just make things so complicated for myself. And everybody around us. Yes, we have scripts around us still.
Yeah, let me grab one.
Which one?
Try the blue one. The blue, the blue one.
This monstrosity, it doesn't have all that much in it. It looks like it's got just,
which one is this?
3.
Okay, this is Quest for Glory 3, Wages of War. Just a plain, 3-ring binder, but as you can see, it's a rather large one. It's a 2-incher, I think.
I like the one for 4. It's got the nice purple, and it's got, you organized it very nicely. These are Corey's scripts.
Yep, this is the ones I worked from. So here's like the character list, and it's just the names of the characters, no detail at all. But later on, maybe not. Somewhere later on, there was probably a description of the characters.
Probably.
Now the innovation that Laura Bow, it's Laura Bow 2 Programming Style Manual.
Project status report in this one. For project starts. This is what was attended, not necessarily what happened.
Now, this was when Bill Davis came in as the creative director for Sierra. He started enforcing having storyboards and stuff done.
So that was for 2.
So this one is the Quest for Glory 3 book. So it says Room 100 opening cartoon, Magic User, Out of East Gestures. So what it does, it's a recap of the final scene from Quest for Glory 2. And so he had a storyboard showing what the key frames were of that. And Leopard Man, cast belts and Bonnie Chief, that sort of thing. But really not any much more detail there. But then the actual scripts, Lori would write about 3 paragraphs. So she had a room number. This is room 100, Ritual Chamber of Out of East. This was the recap. And then she initially wrote like 2 or 3 paragraphs that described visually what it looked like. And the artist then got to work. And then while the artists were working in that, Lori would go and fill in, said, here are the actors in the scene, here's the animations, and here's some of the dialogue, and here's the animation in it. And then by the time it got to the programmers, it had much more.
All right, so here, if you show this one off.
Oh, here's Room 200, City of Tarna. This is the entire script for Room 200 of the game. Almost nothing. The first use of the screen is during an opening cartoon. After Ego walks through the portal, when Ego is teleported back, and so it just says, here's what the action is, but it doesn't really have any detail.
Whereas in 4, I drew out the room. That one shows you what the it's supposed to look like.
So that was her sketch of it. Shows the stairs, and there's actually some perspective in there.
I know, but it's nothing like they wound up with.
It's nothing what we ended up with because she did like square tables and so on.
No, they've changed the room. They changed the organization of the room. The kitchen was back here, and you're supposed to be able to see Olga here. It's
this is 4.
4, yes.
Like round 3.
It's no. So it's just interesting that I actually went.
So the programmers and the artists ideally work together and say, okay, how can we make this work? And, what art do we need to make it work? What animation, so on. And then ideally, they'll go back to Lori and say, is this what you wanted? And then Lori will say, sure, do whatever you want.
Yeah,
right?
No, but that's... It never came back to me. It never happened that way.
Okay, here's a town map as opposed to being an actual map. It's just a set of nodes saying what the scenes are and giving a number to each scene so that we had something to key on in the game.
And how to get around that town.
So, by the time we're ready to do the book, it's an inch or 2 or 3 thick. Quest for Glory 4 was 2 inches thick. This one's about 1.5 inches to 1.5 inches. and they just kept getting more complicated.
Yeah, it's totally different than what it wound up being.
We didn't get to playing any Quest for Glory 4.
We didn't. But that's okay.
Almost
this is about
time.
thankful. We can still be thankful.
Oh yeah, we're all thankful.
Yes. It's interesting how they interpreted where things go as opposed to how we set things up.
Okay, so I'm not sure how much I skipped because we're scrolled down, but I do see Bill Kuhn asked if we had saw the video where Josh Bell, the world's greatest living violinist, maybe, but certainly a great violinist, played as a busker in a New York subway, playing a $3.5 million Stradivarius violin. And he made $50.17.
And it sounded wonderful.
And $20 of that was from someone who recognized him.
I didn't know that.
And then that night he went to play in Radio City Music, Carnegie Hall or Radio City Music Hall or something like that, where the tickets were $150 each.
Yeah, isn't that something?
So there are some really great musicians out on the streets and down in subways, but most people, if they're in a subway, is because they're going somewhere.
Yeah, it's that kind of attitude.
And they don't feel like they can take the time to just sit there and listen. I try to do that once in a while.
I'm too impatient. I don't stand around listening too many.
Yeah, she drags me off, so I don't get to listen. But we do occasionally tip the musicians.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dan. We are glad to have you follow us. Let's see. I remember one fan site saying Quest for Glory is the best computer game ever created. Fact, not opinion. Okay. Well, it's a fact, yes. I remember another one having a guest book called The Adventurers Guild that eventually filled up and he didn't want to get rid of it because Lori signed it. So you had sign my adventurers log, sign my old adventurers log, sign my really, really old adventurers log, signed by Lori Cole. Sign my really old adventurers log. How funny. Quest for Glory 1 and 4 were it for me. Good. Couldn't get enough of grinding those skill points. I'm so glad you enjoyed that. I find it, I get impatient with it.
Yeah, we started seeing problems with it. So the idea was, when you're for the first, the skills were going to increase. That it was up to 100 in the first game, up to 200 in the second game, 300 and so on. What I didn't take into account is that players would be starting at different levels. Ones that had imported their characters would have whatever they had. People creating new ones would have whatever we allowed them to have. And so getting from 200 to 400, a lot harder than getting from 50 to 100. So it became really, really grindy by 3. And so for 5 in particular, we greatly reduced the reliance on having to have a certain level of stat to do things, because we didn't want people to have to sit there and throw rocks for 2 hours just to get their throwing skill up.
But we did actually, keep the concept of it in, even for Hero U. Mm-hmm. But we mostly made people to at least, get something in return. So, for instance, when you're in game Hero U, you want to practice your balancing skills on the tightrope, we let you get a certain amount of time and said you wasted a half an hour or so. So we measured it in time.
Yeah, we didn't make you sit there and do it. Yeah,
rather than measure it in people actually having to go through the efforts. Actually, 3 had a big impact to me as well. I just don't remember it as much. For some reason, I enjoyed it once I figured out I could level up by clicking the mansion stone carvings over and over again. I was so damn excited. On that Baba Yaga bush. Oh, okay. How funny.
Oh, we may get to those yet.
We may yet.
So, Quest for Glory 3 for me was one of the best storytelling ones for the simple reason that Sierra assigned me to a different project than that, and so I didn't work on it. And I got in the last month or two of the project to test it and help refine it. And that meant I actually got to play the game from scratch, which I never had the luxury of on any of the other games. What happens if you're a programmer on one of these major games is that you have certain areas assigned to you, and you work endless hours on those one small section of the game, and you test that over and over again to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do, and then you move on to another area. So you don't really get any kind of feel for the overview of the game. one of Lori's strengths that I always admired is that she had her entire game in mind all the time. So she knew that if you did something in this room, then that would have repercussions in this scene in a entirely different part of the game, and could communicate with that. But otherwise, the rest of us could just read her script and say where she said, "Okay, set a flag here." I said, "Okay," and then you'd find out, weeks later, months later, you open another script, say, "Test this flag that was set over there," and so Lori was the one to keep track of all that. So I was good at the microcosm. Lori has the macrocosm.
Yeah. All of the games were great, although I found 5 the toughest one to get through, since 3D was in its awkward teenage years. Yes, nobody figured it out yet. Yes, I would like to do a Quest for Glory 5 downmake to Quest for Glory 4 style would be epic. Actually, you could do an upgrade. You could make it all real 3D, and do it like World of Warcraft.
Yeah, it's a few $100 million.
If you have the millions, if you are Microsoft, who happens to own the damn project now, you could afford to upgrade it to...
However, like all big corporations, they're risk averse, and right. They don't want to put millions of dollars into something that won't bring them anything back.
Well, I like 5, actually, yes. Let's all band together and buy back the IP, yes. Let's all of us put our $5 million in. And maybe then we can do it, yes. If we wanted to spend $5 million just to, maybe even 5 would buy back that. But I don't think so. Yes.
So I came on to 5 about a year into development. And they were about to ship the game. They said, "We're running a little late. We're going to miss Christmas, but we're going to ship it in early 96 or whatever that was." And I came in and saw, okay, yeah, they've got characters walking around, and they had some multiplayer features that let players interact with other characters to a limited extent. And I said, okay, well, what can you do there? Well, you can walk around and interact with the other NPCs. And I then saw Lori by this point had generated 4 or 5 inches of script for the game, and nobody had looked at it. I talked to one of the programmers, and he said that all of them were old school Sierra programmers that had learned SCI, the in-house language, and did not know C or C++. And we had made the decision early on, which I was involved in. I was in a meeting with the systems team, and we decided to abandon SCI and write the game entirely in C++. And they brought in Eric Lingeld as the lead programmer for that. And they brought him in as a programmer, but he was only willing to work in the project if he was the lead, even though he'd never done a game. But he had ideas on what games should be. So I came in as a contractor to help him out on it. And this programmer on the team said, well, there was a seminar to teach C++ in a very thorough way. And it was like $500 each or something like that. And we asked the company, to send the programming team there so we could be prepared to do this game. And they didn't want to spend the money. So we had a team of programmers that the company was paying everybody a few $1,000s each a month. It was underpaid, but not totally underpaid, sitting there in their hands because they had this game that they had no idea what to do anything with. There was no SCI in it, and they didn't know C++. So my first job coming in was to 2 parts. One was to get the role-playing systems to work again in C++, but the other part was to come up with some sample scripts that would be very simplified coding that would allow the programmers, without knowing a lot of C++, to be able to write the game. And I talked with Eric Lingeld and said, well, what kind of scripting system do you have for the developers? And he said, scripting? So I explained.
What was the motivation for leaving SCI?
Motivation for leaving SCI was too long in the tooth. That we felt that, starting with game 2, the games had not sold as well as the first one. And in general, that had very tight memory restrictions. It was designed for, a few pages of memory and so on. And that they didn't feel they could do a modern, sophisticated game, and they wanted to go 3D.
Well, yeah, but that was
It was mostly
they rewrote it for 4. They had rewritten it.
Yeah, so by the time we were on 4, there was a major rewrite, but it was 4 was extremely buggy, and we felt that the engine was kind of creaking under its own weight, and it was because they were recreating SCI for modern language. It took the first 4 months of our production time while they were developing the system, so our development time got scrunched to the last one. 4, yes. Yeah. So therefore, there was no time to do it. But mostly it's because at the time, yes, we wanted to do 3D, and because this was suddenly a new Sierra. This is after Sierra 5 was made when Sierra had moved north. And what was left was the dregs left over in Oakhurst, and in dregs by the people that didn't get the prestigious. Oh, we want you to go up north. So Ken Williams and the Sierra board basically said that the problem with being in Oakhurst was really nice, being out in the middle of nowhere and having recreational opportunities and so on, but they could not convince, in particular for sales and marketing, could not get anyone high-powered to be willing to move out into the country. They all wanted to be in the middle of the action. See, they were all, again, on the Myers-Briggs, S versus P. They were all sensory personalities.
But honestly, the thing is, no income tax. That was the real motivation. Let's not keep...
Well, that wasn't the ones they told us, though.
I don't care. But that was the reason. So therefore, there was still a core team left in Oakhurst. And that is what became, eventually spun off to become Yosemite Entertainment, which was what actually produced Quest for Glory 5. And it was the only one they had. Everybody else had the other one,
Bellevue,
domains.
Bellevue had the other major franchises. Quest for Glory wasn't being used by anybody, and I guess it was Terry Robinson that told Craig to talk to us?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so Terry Robinson had been brought in, and they were going to make him the
Terry
director.
Robinson, the artist.
Terry Robinson, the artist, the very talented artist.
But artist, nevertheless,
was going to be the director for Quest for Glory 5, and he told the general manager, Craig, that said, I can't do this. Courtney and Lori still live in the area. Why don't we talk to them? Yeah. And at that point, they brought in Lori, and they talked to me, and they wanted me to basically come in and work in the systems department, and then when they were ready to do Quest for Glory 5, move to that. But they could not commit to actually doing Quest for Glory 5. They said, we're not sure we can get this funded. We've got a job for you, no problem, but we don't know if we'll be doing Quest for Glory. And I had another very good offer at the time. So it's kind of like, well, do I really want to, go back into this company that I totally burned out on the first time when we don't even know if they're going to do our game? And so I said no. I went to work for the other company, got a huge raise, but that dried up after 6 months, and I ended up coming back.
I remember one of the promos for 5 showed the development team standing all around a huge model skeleton of a dragon, similar to one you'd see in a dinosaur museum. I can't believe they actually built that for you. I can't believe they did either. I never saw it. So I don't know what that was, but it wasn't in our place.
Maybe they were in a museum.
Maybe.
So he says, wait, Bellevue, Washington doesn't... No, all of the state of Washington does not have personal income tax.
Yes.
You still pay federal income tax, of course, but you don't pay state income tax.
And that's a major deal.
And
that's why...
Oregon is the opposite. Washington state has sales tax. Oregon state has income tax. And when we went up to PAX and when we did the fanfare, I had to pay sales tax on everything we sold there, which is a pretty hefty chunk. But there's no personal income tax, which doesn't matter too much if you're a starving game designer making $30,000 or $40,000 a year. But if you're a marketing sales guy and you're making $100,000 or more a year, all of a sudden state income tax makes a huge difference.
Yes.
California's like 8%, I think.
In terms of the awkward 3D years, Quest for Glory 5 was a shining beacon of excellence, when held up against King's Quest 8. Well, and remember, that you have to measure it also against Gabriel Knight, whatever number that was. Of all those three were...
Yeah, all three were done at the same time in 3 different locations in Washington, Oregon, and California. And each of the 3 of them decided they needed a new engine, and each of the 3 of them developed their engine from scratch, and it was just insane. The big strength of Sierra in the early days...
It was 3 that was 3D, okay.
Yeah, GK3.
Okay.
The big strength of Sierra in the early days is they had a systems team led by Jeff Stevenson and Bob Heitman that created the tools that were used for all the games. And that did have the defect of all the games kind of looking alike, but they still had different feels because of the themes and the different designers. They were able to pour millions of dollars into that engine and use it across the games and divide up the cost. Whereas when they did a new engine for every game, that meant every game had a several $1 million 3D engine.
Up front.
Yeah.
So that's what blew, King's Quest and that's why you don't think. But then King's Quest
we actually
8
yeah.
did not actually have Roberta behind it, so therefore you could say it does not belong in the series.
Yeah, King's Quest Mask of Eternity, in theory, Roberta was there as a consultant, but in fact the team, at least according to Ken, completely ignored her and pushed her off to the side and said, we know how to make this game, and they made a crappy game.
Yeah.
So they at least feel like if Roberta had been involved, it would have at least had better storytelling.
Gabriel Knight, no 2 games use the same engine, are you? Yeah, well, that's because they were at the late end of Sierra Systems, yes. Mask of Eternity doesn't even feel like a game. Yes, that's why it doesn't feel like a game, because it wasn't really a Roberta Williams game. It was simply a title that they put in onto a game. Whereas Quest for Glory, I was again writing the whole story out and creating the game.
Was Mask of Eternity sort of the equivalent of a quick time game?
What do you mean? It was combat. The last time,
all
I saw of it, and that was when we were at E3 in Atlanta the one time. The only time, Quest for Glory 5 got promoted. That was the only time we ever got promoted in our time at Sierra. I honestly went on a publicity tour.
Or at least it was made obvious to us, yeah.
And got to talk with the press, and we had tchotchkes. I mean, really. But yeah, it's it was amazing what we got to do to make 5. And I mean, the amount of money that was put into it, the quality of the art behind it does not represent what it looks like, honestly. And again, yes, teenage years for 3D. That's a good way of putting it, but it's more like the ugly adolescence period, full of pimples and everything else, yes.
So we could have licensed Unreal to do Quest for Glory 5, but it was either, I can't remember, it was either $500,000 or $1 million to license it because of the size of Sierra. In fact, they were going to ship 100,000 or more copies. And they said, we would rather spend that money in-house. We only had a $1.5 million budget initially for Quest for Glory 5.
KQ, Gabriel Knight 2 was so different.
Which we very quickly blew through. But
yeah. I need to play Mask to see what everybody's talking about. It's a sad ways for the series to go out. Well, technically speaking,
it's not really part of the series.
But it's also not the last, because they did the remake.
That's true. They had the Odd Gentleman.
Odd Gentleman did the
remake.
Make
the new generation King's Quest.
Yes, so you really need to see what they did with that. The /remake, quote unquote, of KQ, the reinterpretation in Telltale style of King's Quest. So that's that. Yeah.
CMJ says MOE could be a decent standalone game, but not as a King's Quest.
Yeah. Okay.
So that gets along with what Lori was saying about the theme music for Quest for Glory, is that you need that tie-in. You need to have the feeling like there is continuity, that this is all of a series. And if you bring in a game that's that's just really doesn't look like a King's Quest, doesn't play like a King's Quest, and the story isn't there, it's not a King's Quest.
And here's the problem that really part of the adventure game problem was that people were not buying adventure games unless they liked adventure games. So it was hard to open up to a new market. That's why the Mask of Eternity had combat and things like that, because they're trying to reach out to not just the adventure game mob, but the role-playing people out there. And so, therefore, they had a title that said, oh, this is an adventure game, and nobody role-playing wanted to look at it. And that's been our problem with our games, too. And nobody, we're not one, we're not the other. And, it still is keeps us from being on the top of the lists in a lot of ways.
So Sierra was the publisher for Ultima 2, and Lord British didn't like the terms, and I can understand it. He went independent. And
it kind of paid off for him,
It did. But the most generous that a publisher will ever get when their development resources are being used is maybe the original developer will get 10 to 15% of their sales. We got 3% on Heroes Quest because that 3% basically covered the fact that Lori only had a pittance as an advance, and so that was her income. But Sierra supplied the artists and the programmers and the marketing and so on, and they kept the lion's share of the income as a result. We also have to keep in mind that the way the game industry works, particularly with, brick and mortar stores back then, is that if a game is on the shelves for $50, that the store scrapes the top $2 to $10 off that, and that's their profit margin. The distributor gets the next $10 or $20 off it, and then the publisher ends up getting, say, $20 out of that $50, then they have to subtract off all the cost of goods of the discs and the books and the boxes and the shipping costs and so on. And so there's maybe $10 left by the time they're paying royalty. If we got, $3 on a game, 30 cents on a game, we would get maybe up to $1. Anywhere from 30 cents to $1 per copy sold. Designers do not get rich from making these games. On the other hand, the people working at Sierra were very incensed we got any royalty at all, because they were working for a salary and it wasn't a particularly good one.
Yes.
So if they made a bestseller versus a failure, they got the same amount.
Well, and then they tried the deal of teams would get a certain percentage of the game that they were going to be working with, which meant everybody wanted to be on King's Quest.
Because they knew that Sierra would market King's Quest most heavily.
And it would get the most sales. So everybody wanted to be on that. They didn't want to be on Quest for Glory or anything. So that idea wasn't too good either. Let's see. Yes, the pixel art of the recent games that are imitating the 1984 style games it's an interesting approach. It doesn't work well for the role-playing game genre. I mean, really, we could go...
It's suitable for an adventure game, and it's especially suitable for mobile devices and cell phones.
Yes.
Because cell phone resolution, going down small, that works.
And, the style games that we tend to make when we're making Hero U just don't work very well in that, because we're now used to, actually making a world. We want to do the world of Hero U. We don't want to do the mobile app game that's, twitchy things and things like that. But Thimbleweed Park was a great implementation of going back to the old times.
Retro style.
Yes. Has digital distribution made this better or worse? Digital competition has made things worse. There are too many games out there, and there is no way to really get a marketing well.
Now, the game industry has always had a huge number of bankruptcies, mergers, and so on, that even fairly large companies were constantly going bankrupt in the 90s and aughts. But with the indies going through Steam mostly, Steam and GOG, and a few other sites, when we first started doing it, when we did the Kickstarter at the end of 2012 and 2013, we started development. It was Steam was curated. You had to be approved by them, and GOG was curated. And the following year, they introduced the Greenlight system, where you could get people to vote for you, to greenlight you. If you had enough votes, they would approve it. And we did a big publicity effort among our fans, and we got greenlighted, so that was good. Greenlit. But by the time 5.5 years later, we actually finished the game and got it out there 5 years later, they had opened the floodgates. They said, you don't need Greenlight anymore. Anyone that wants to pay the $100 fee can be on our site. And all of a sudden, instead of competing against 50 other new games every month, we were competing against hundreds or thousands. I think it's about 1,000 or more games on Steam every month. Plus all the older ones are still on there. So it's really tough. We had one person say that we were charging $30 initially, that was too much, because for $20 they could get the Game of the Year edition of some major AAA title. And somebody pointed out that it was the Game of the Year edition because it was a 10-year-old game. And they had already made all their profit, and now they were just getting a little extra on the margin, but they didn't care. I said, no, why should I buy a new game for $30 if I can buy an old game for $20?
And fine, do that.
They're not wrong.
Yes. Really, no one wanted to be on a Quest for Glory? I remember reading a comment by Corey years back of how Quest for Glory was consistently one of Sierra's top performers. And I remember a discussion...
Well, that wasn't actually my impression at Sierra, okay?
Yes.
I knew that the very first game, I was told, had sold more copies in the first 90 days than any of their other games. And that was kind of amazing. But, after that, we were just, basically all their top sellers were expected to sell 100,000 units, and only King's Quest did significantly better than that.
Yes. And it's all about perception, too. Everybody knew that King's Quest was the crowning jewel.
Yeah.
And it was going to get more people, it was going to get more publicity and that. And everybody could read the table. But they only kept that in for like 1-2 games maybe, and then they realized it was unvaluable. Nobody wanted to work on the educational games, for instance, and that was the next one that was coming out.
So Ken was always looking to get, he felt that he had as big a slice of the pie as he could get in the adventure game market, so he wanted to get into other pies. So we were brought on because he said, okay, we've saturated adventure game market, we need to get into the role-playing game market.
Yeah.
And the following year, or 2 years later, he came up with the idea of, okay, we've got the adventure game market and some of the role-playing game market. We started out doing educational games. That's a big market. Let's get into the educational game market.
Yes, and we felt like Quest for Glory was the underdog. We never got on the cover of the
Interaction magazine.
The main magazine, the real press of our own company. We never got the cover of the Rolling Stone, effectively. It was so annoying. We never got the push. We never got the T-shirts and things, except for the first game.
And then 20 years later, we went to San Diego Comic-Con and talked with Scott Murphy and Mark Crow of Space Quest. And Scott told us how jealous they were of us because he said, you guys got anything you wanted. And we had to struggle to get people or anything else.
Yeah, and I had to look at...
We thought they were the successful one.
Gabriel Knight. They got to go to Germany. Jeez, they got to take pictures of Germany and have a vacation over there before they even made the game. So,
it's all relative.
It was all relative in perceptions and things like that.
Pecking order and also how good you were at schmoozing.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's like music. The entry bar has become much lower now. Back in the good old days, you could get 1 in 3, 1 in 4 would be good. Nowadays, you have to sift through 1,000 really bad games, if you could call it that, to find the good ones.
I don't know. There are an awful lot of good games out there. So, in that 1,000, there's probably 50 to 100 really good games.
But finding them? That's the problem. There is no real publicity scheme right now, and that's what's hurting everybody. Because it used to be, everybody read the gaming magazine. Everybody got Computer Gaming Guide and it would give you the reviews of the major games, and you could read them. Now there are no paper game magazines except those in Europe, and those are hugely expensive.
Valve puts out an annual report on Steam every year, and every year they show how their numbers are just climbing, and they're selling more and more. And Kickstarter, same way, bigger and bigger numbers. Well, part of that's inflation, something I had not considered with our initial budget for Hero U. But a big part of it is just that they have so many games on there. They're making many more dollars overall for the site, but the amount per game, there's like 10 games on there that make a lot of money, and everybody else is losing money.
And GOG's curation can get a bit much. Tell us about it.
They refused to Tilly's Tale.
Yeah.
They said, we don't think it'll sell. And, they seem to have been right, because it has not sold on Steam.
Yeah, but then again, it didn't hurt them. I mean, it wouldn't hurt them to have it on their stable of games to sell. But it is funny, since it was originally called Good Old Games, and Tilly's Tale and Alfeo's Adventure are really a retro kind of style game, yes. Mm-hmm. Shouldn't the fact that we have the internet with instantaneous crowdsourced reviews and ratings naturally make the best games bubble up to the top in publicity?
No, because the people who rate games pretty much are playing the major titles. So you'll see a lot of reviews for
the King's Quest remake, for instance.
Actually, that didn't do very well.
And Roberta's game. I mean, the remake of the Cursed Cave.
Oh, the Colossal Cave?
Yeah, the adventure game.
Yeah.
That didn't have as many reviews as we expected.
Yeah. So, your major first-person shooters and your major MMOs will get lots and lots of reviews and ratings. But we had a terrible time getting four reviews that counted on Metacritic in order to even get a rating. And eventually some magazine in Greece did a review in Greek, and that got counted. That was our fourth review.
Yeah.
Whereas Dave Gilbert with Wajidai, when he came out with Avowed, that got dozens of reviews and really got the publicity. And part of that is the fact that he had an established company and he had done a dozen games. And eventually you build up critical mass and people are aware of, that you make a certain type of game and you get covered. But Avowed was a breakout even for Dave because he'd been doing it for years and getting, a few reviews here and there, and he kept his expenses low, so he was able to make a profit on them, but didn't really have a breakout hit until, he'd been 10 or 15 years in the industry.
Yep. Markets aren't a perfect system for sorting the good from the bad. Yeah, because you might find a great game and you might write a review of it, but most people aren't playing it, so the reviews aren't getting enough reviews to reach critical mass.
Steam also has a review. Slanted said you had difficulty getting reviews on Steam. Well, first of all, those reviews do not count for things like Metacritic, but the reviews on Steam only counts people who bought it on Steam. And we made most of our income on Hero U Road Redemption by running a Kickstarter, and we pre-sold 8,000 copies of the game before we got it up on Steam. And all those 8,000 players, 7,000 or 8,000 players,
are core people, you people.
Yep, they're our core players, and they got quote free copies as far as Steam was concerned because Steam didn't make any profit from it. So your reviews do not count towards the ratings. So the people that found it on Steam and bought it, that makes up all the ratings. And, we eventually ended up, we've sold about 20,000 total copies. And that is a major hit by indie standards. But it's a money loser.
Yeah.
So it is really, really rough. Tilly's Tale is just sank like a stone. We only had, I think, 1,000 or 2,000 backers. That first of all only paid a fraction of development costs, but once it got out there, basically nobody found the game.
Yeah. So So, but we were going to be pushing it this year. We'll do more publicity. We're going to, because we really want to.
We did release it at a bad time.
Yes, and we want to push Ifeo's game. So therefore, we will do a lot more and trying to get that built up. But yeah.
But never let anyone tell you that the indie game development market is easy.
No. And making a game isn't easy.
And in fact, yeah, AAA companies, they're not having it easy.
No, they are not.
So I just saw like Activision, the original version of Activision, and company after company went bankrupt in the 90s and 2000s. And they got acquired by bigger companies. And Electronic Arts was once the big dog, and they've got much smaller. And Activision Blizzard became big because of a few ultra successful titles. Diablo and Warcraft and World of Warcraft and StarCraft. So they basically have a handful of titles that have made them succeed. So if you get that breakout hit, you can do it.
The irony of EA will never cease to cause me to shake my head.
The fact that they came in as a boutique publisher for, like all based on the artists. And
Blizzard got the cash cows. Blizzard created those cash cows. Give it a credit.
They made good games. They made polished, fun-to-play games.
Yeah.
We saw the beginning and end of the industry when my son started playing StarCraft, and he got the Brood Wars expansion, which I don't remember if that was even a Blizzard product or if that was a fan.
It was
okay,
real.
Brood Wars. Okay,
Uh-huh.
but it had a map editor, and fans could provide their own maps. And Michael just played map after map provided by fans, and spent an entire year not being interested in any other game.
Not needing to buy another game, yeah.
And so instead of...
Yes, the Insurrection campaign, yes. Yeah, that was it. Brood Wars was later.
Brood Wars was the one that he was... No, it was Brood Wars.
No, it wasn't. That was later. Brood Wars was more recent.
I don't even know what Insurrection is.
Oh, well.
StarCraft Brood Wars was the one he played over and over to total distraction.
Go look at it today. But at any rate... So, yes, there were all sorts of modding. It was Brood Wars for me buying multiple PCs so I could LAN party. Okay. All right.
I'm trying finding it.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was Brood War with no S.
Oh, okay.
StarCraft Brood War.
Okay,
It came out in 1998.
Okay. That's about right.
So Michael was 12.
Yeah, but it was later after that. Well, he was still playing it after that.
He was playing free. He played it up till college, I think.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Did somebody say LAN party?
I see. Tim Kaine has a good YouTube channel where he talks about the difficulty of running Troika games. He said he'd never do a game company again. Well, yeah. He's smart. Yeah. Did you use a serial cable to connect your PCs?
Oh, the Atari ST had the innovation that they had built-in MIDI connectors so that people could run a keyboard or a MIDI sound system off the Atari ST because they wanted it to be used by creatives. And people figured out they could connect MIDI cables to other Atari STs and build a network on that, or maybe to a distribution box, and then plug in multiple MIDI cables on that. So they had MIDI parties on the ST.
Yes.
Yep, 98. We had Ethernet.
Yes, Ethernet.
Ethernet.
Those were the days, weren't they? Back
my
in
friend.
my day, quit your Ethernet. Yes.
So December 1998, isn't that right about when Quest for Glory 5 came out?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
So that was the end of the gaming world as we knew it.
I remember having to use
Token Rain to play multiplayer Doom.
I wasn't poor, but we didn't get much, so we had to use a serial cable in '98 at our very first
StarCraft
LAN.
1.
Yeah, it was so cool. Chainsaw Monday.
My first computer I built myself was a S100 bus CPM system, and I had a Centronics line printer that used the fanfold sheets of paper. It was very fast. and that connected via parallel port, and it's had a specific Centronics connector that I needed for it, all this. I think it was $6,000 for the printer.
Yeah, it was
the price of the computer.
Hugely expensive printer. Yeah.
Laser printers came in; they were like $10,000 for a laser printer.
Yeah.
Apple was first to introduce those.
Laser, parallel ports, serial ports. We are showing our age here. Yes, indeed. LAN parties are great. I miss them. They were literally a social way to use your computer. Exactly. Boy, that's... And all right, so that brings us back to our theme.
Well, if I'm showing my age here, so let's see. Over the course of my career, I have worked with 3 different sizes of floppy disks. I worked with 9-track magnetic tape. I worked with cassette tape. I worked with punch cards. I worked with punch paper tape. That might be most of it. I did in high school, we had a thing where we, in the class, we had a unit in our math class or something where we were doing some programming, and you had the CHADs. You had the cards that you used the stylus to punch out holes in the cards, and then that got sent into the downtown office to run on their central mainframe computer, and the following week you would get your results back. So yeah. We had key punch. I took a class, summer class, in Fortran, and they had key punch operators. We weren't allowed to touch the key punch machines ourselves. So we had forms we filled out. You had to specify at the top of the form how you made it look for the letter I, the number 1, the letter O, and the number 0, 2, and Z. So you showed basically exactly how you would annotate those so that the key punch operator could look at that and not get them wrong.
Let's see. My first ever drinking coffee was at a LAN party that I was desperately trying not to fall asleep at. I fell asleep 30 minutes after drinking the coffee.
That's how it works on me. If I drink coffee, I get very tired, and about an hour later, or I guess I get a very short initial buzz, and an hour later I'm asleep.
And Brainiac says another reason to come to the MagFest. They have a LAN party there. Heck, you can rent a system for it this year.
Yeah, we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do as far as, having systems for a booth and such.
So, yeah, that's the problem with computer games, is it is an isolating experience. And that's the advantage of things like this live stream, where we're all gathered up and we're all gathered together to talk about the things we love and to, and discuss the theories behind them and just get together and
anybody
talk.
who came to watch us play Quest for Glory 4, sorry about that.
Yeah. But, well, we didn't really advertise it too much.
Yeah, well.
But at any rate, and we're very thankful for you, because we wouldn't be doing this without you guys. To come back to our theme.
I think the first time I drank Strawberry Ripple and Apple Valley from Boone's Farm was at a party.
Strawberry Hill.
Strawberry Hill. That's at a cast party for
Definitely.
A play that I wasn't part of the cast of.
I was part of the cast when we had
I was invited
Strawberry
by
Hill,
the cast.
the soda pop of alcohol drinks, yes. Oh, we're much more thankful to you. Trust me. Favorite Thanksgiving food?
For me,
Missing Shadows in October would be much
for
more
me, it's between pumpkin pie with more whipped cream than pumpkin pie.
Yes.
And cranberry sauce in my turkey.
No.
I like the jellied cranberry sauce. I don't like the natural stuff.
And dressing. I love the
dressing's okay.
That's one of my favorite things.
I love white meat. I love white meat turkey and with lots of cranberry sauce.
It's also engaged that you would. It is nice that you can engage with fans now. Now, yes. That is the miracle of modern technology. We get to talk to you people directly, and this is great.
Now, in a sense, that's full circle, because when we started out, we were playing D&D with maybe 6 players and a DM, and we got personal interaction all through it, and outside the game stuff as well. We'd all go out to eat afterwards. We always pull into a Lions or Denny's at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning and be talking about how we murdered the king and such.
Yes, yeah, with the discussions afterwards, yes.
I always said D&D and Bridge are the only two games where you spend more time talking about the game than playing it.
Yeah. Let's see. Maybe you'd like to be guests at the Vintage Computer Festivals. There are 4 or 5 nationwide, and the largest is in Chicago in September. I'm not a showrunner for it, but I've always had a marvelous time there. We would be interested. I mean, next year we're kind of open with our schedule. We don't have any major things scheduled yet.
Yeah, there was a major vintage computer festival that goes on in Seattle just before PAX West.
Yeah.
And I think overlaps partly with it.
Yeah. So we would be very interested if we can get free tickets to something. We probably will. Next year we did want to promote Tilly's Tale and Efeo's Adventure and see if we could actually sell something.
I was reading about fluoride in drinking water lately, and that places that had fluoridated water. I grew up in Santa Monica, California, the year they introduced fluoride to the water, and I had super good teeth most of my life. I still have really good teeth. But I was told that if you ate candy, your teeth would all rot and fall out, and I never had any cavities, so I thought they were lying to me. And it was only when I was, 50 or so, they started telling me, and oh, by the way, when you're older, you'll get diabetes, and then you'll get heart disease and stuff like that from it. So, well, they didn't tell me that part. They told me my teeth were going to rot, and demonstrably they didn't. So anyway, there was actually, I read somewhere that one of the arguments against putting fluoride in drinking water is it was all plot by the candy industry to get people to buy more candy because they wouldn't be worried about their teeth.
I see.
Little circular logic there.
Yeah. My father always jokes the cranberry sauce at Thanksgiving is terrible and will obviously make people so he'll fall on the sword on everybody's behalf and eat it himself.
Yeah, very. That's very, said that once or twice.
Yes, idealistic. Yes.
SDCC asked LXR. We usually go to like one day of San Diego.
No, we usually go more with that. We just went to one day this year. Because we had a conflict.
We frequently have a conflict. When we don't have a conflict, we'll go to about 3 days.
Yeah.
And that happens because we only live an hour away by car or train.
And we can get in.
And we get in free.
That's the key. We get in free. And then we hang out and take pictures. That's all we really do because we don't go to the panels or anything because it's too much, too many people.
Conventions are a much less expensive vacation than some of the ones we've done recently. So they're a little more affordable.
The next AGH fanfare, if they have it, if they manage to get themselves to acts together, we would be interested in it. They were talking about moving it to Vegas for the next one, and actually focusing on LucasArts. So we'll see if that happens.
What was ironic about that is AGH was, the fanfare was originally presented to us as a get-together of Sierra alumni, and that ironically after 10 years or so, people talking about doing something like that, a group of people in Oakhurst also got together and did an alumni gathering, which we regrettably had to miss because by the time they finalized the dates on that, we had set a vacation.
Yeah.
VCF Midwest in Chicago is always free. Have to pay for a booth.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, we can probably manage that if we can get things together. We'll have to see what our life is like.
Yeah, our plan is to travel more. My problem is that I have a questionable immune system and I get sick anytime I go anywhere. Yeah. So I need to strengthen my immune system and start maybe getting exposed to more germs in more places will help.
Yes, maybe.
I may die in the short run, but if I survive,
you'll be stronger for it. Yes. Well, let's see. So our Thanksgiving, we're having a quiet one here at home for this year. And we are going in 2 weeks. We are going down to Mexico, to Guadalajara.
With the family.
To meet with our son and his wife and child.
And whatever their relatives come out.
Whatever relatives of hers. And we'll be in Mexico, so we will not be having a live stream.
We will not have a live stream on December 7th. The next one will be December 21.
And then we will have our solstice special.
That'll be our solstice special live stream. Are we gonna run a longer one?
Maybe, yeah. When mine.
We used to do like a marathon at New Year's.
You usually do midnight.
Maybe we'll do it for solstice, depending on how sick we are after we get back from Mexico.
So, you don't have a calendar there. Let's see, calendar here. This one.
No, it's here.
Oh, all right, fine. It didn't bring it up for me.
I think you clicked on the notifications. No, notifications.
Yeah, it said Okay, open that. There's your calendar. You got stuck behind that crap. Yes. All right. So, at any rate.
Today is the 23rd,
so
December 7th.
The next one would have been the 7th, which we're skipping.
One after that is the 21st. And the one after that was January 4th, so we'll be good for that.
Yeah, so the 21st, we'll do a Yule then. We'll do a long Yule next time. You'll have fun, yes. And we'll make Yule jokes. And
so it's somebody maybe OSU Brainiac will keep the log of it, so we'll have a Yule log.
Okay, there.
Very important.
Yes. So we'll have 2 birthdays in that time. Corey's birthday will be on the 27th, and mine will be on the 10th. So both of our birthdays.
And we won't be here.
And we won't be here for it, so we won't see you. Too bad. We can't have a birthday party, but that's okay.
We'll be getting older, but we're still we're not quite over the decrepit line yet.
No, we haven't hit that point too much. Thanks for another enjoyable and engaging stream. Love all your games and looking forward to the new Hero U ones and Puzzle Worthy. Yeah, well, we're looking forward to...
Well, we're looking forward to getting the mental and emotional energy to do it.
Yes.
Lori has started working seriously on the scripting for Feo's adventure again.
And the art.
There's hope.
We got our art, and
we have a musician.
We have a musician for a Feo's game now.
Yeah, Dan Polakar is doing the music for Feo's, and he is part of a reggae band run by one of Bob Marley's sons, and it's a major deal. They tour around the world, and he did soundtrack for Julia Minamata's Crimson Diamond, and he's now doing our reggae-inspired soundtrack for Summer Days of Feo's Adventure. So that's going to be
exciting.
We got some really nice.
So we'll start to have some music, and we'll start to have some video for you, and
it'll start looking more like a game eventually.
Yeah, and yes, we're looking forward to the puzzle.
And we're hoping to avoid pandemics and stuff, and maybe get them out every 2 years or so instead of every 5.
That would be very nice. See,
I sound sick, but that's my normal.
Yeah. So, at any rate, thank you all for showing up. Thank you for being part of our fandom for all these years. And
for those who supported the Kickstarters or bought our games, thank you.
We are very grateful to you all. That
gives us financial support.
Yes, it kept us going. Even if it didn't make us a whole lot of money, it did.
See, we don't need to. We're comfortable.
Right. It's keeping us going. It's keeping us in touch with you people. It's giving us an excuse to have an extended family. And, we'll be happy to go to conventions. We'll be glad, love to see you guys. And talk to you again in 4 weeks from now.
When we don't travel too much and don't keep doing remodeling and such, we have a pretty inexpensive lifestyle. So we pour our money into the games, and that's okay. It's a fun hobby.
Oh, yeah, speaking of cooking, our programmer
cheaper
really
than
wants
owning
to
a boat.
do cooking.
We had talked about doing a thing called Heroes Feast, cookbook, which is going to be recipes for the Quest for Glory games, and so on. And we didn't get around to that, and then Wizards of the Coast did their own Heroes Feast cookbook, so we need a different title.
We will.
We're thinking Cooking for Glory.
Yeah, we'll find something, and we'll be doing cooking recipes too. So, and that's where you see them in our page, not on Patreon, the
Discord.
So
yeah, let's link that Discord again.
Go to Discord and have fun, because that keeps it alive any day of the week. And anytime you're lonely and want to talk Quest for Glory or just want to be nostalgia, come to our Discord, and believe me, you'll find your family there. Just keep the Baba Yaga recipes out of the back. The Baba Yaga recipes will be at the back of the book.
Well, we'll put in
and the Gnome Ants. No, you have to have the section for Gnome Ann's recipes
but
too.
What we'll do with Baba Yaga's, we'll have the original recipes, and then we'll have variations that are actually edible.
Yes.
and that don't involve killing.
Yes.
people and creatures.
Frog legs. Alfredo, yes. I'm only buying it for the Baba recipes. She's my gal, yes. Oh, God, the No Man ones, yes. Yeah, that'll be fun.
So where is our channel for...
where the recipes are going? I have no idea.
Oh, here it is. It's under creators.
The one
cookbook.
called Cookbook.
Okay, so let's bring this up here.
So, well,
if I can
make
figure
that
it out.
full
Desktop.
screen.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
Full screen. Okay, here's our Discord.
No, you don't have it on this page. Discord isn't coming up. You've got desktop there.
Oh, dear.
You still have Brood Wars up there.
Video capture. No, it's screen capture. It's, yeah, Discord is invisible to screen capture.
Well, you could bring up Discord in the browser, probably. Anything without Undead Ungwid is just not my thing, yes. Are you all trying to organize the Brood Wars games? Oh, my God.
Anyway, in our Discord... Oh, that's not the right... Where did my Discord go? Is this it?
Yes,
there it is.
That's it.
No, it's Firefox.
That's Firefox. Okay, good.
I lost my
Your
Discord.
Discord is this one there. The one with the +9 dot. 1, 2, 3, 4. There.
Discord, +9.
You still don't have it, but you have the
yeah, I don't know how to show it except maybe...
Great wallpaper there. Yes. Isn't that a fun water pot? I mean, all of these are available on our Patreon page. These are all...
It looks like nothing is... it's not allowed to be shown.
Not allowed to be shown. Oh, well. Join the Discord.
We'll come back. Join the Discord and you get to see it. Go down to the creators section. And under there is game developers, cookbook, fan art, writers, and penitentiary.
Sunchoke risotto with fried sage is up there. That's
Msiko, who is one of our developers, has been regularly posting recipes.
Wow.
Sunchoke risotto with fried sage, herb stuffed pork roast, salt sea ice cream bars.
Oh, that looks great. That looks like something No Man would make.
Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, well, and we will have a new wallpaper for you for next month.
Here we go. Scallops of black sesame and cherries.
Oh wow. They look like
spiced
caviar.
Pumpkin soup. Yeah, spiced pumpkin soup with chili garlic oil.
Okay.
So Msiko, not sure he wants to be outed, but one of our developers has been doing these.
So yeah, lots of recipes on there if you want to see food.
There's a sweet potato and toasted marshmallow pie.
Okay. So at any rate.
Great stuff. And we may eventually turn these into a cookbook if we... I mean, I've been saying for a while we're making a terrible mistake in this crowded market doing super expensive developed video games. And we could instead be doing books, role-playing games.
We will see what we do. But at any rate, we will say hello to you. We will say goodbye to you. We will say thank you. And
thanks for the memory.
See you next time.
And yes, we'll be here in 4 weeks. 4 weeks on Saturday, December 21st.
So right on the solstice.
Winter solstice. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Where's my button?